Up and rolling on the live stream. About 15 seconds before we go on. What do you think? Maybe 10 seconds.
Showtime. All right, you're up.
Tuesday morning, how are you? Hope you're doing well. I was up late last night rearranging the garage, trying to get respectable on the live stream. Also got to end up watching a tremendous college basketball game. West Virginia, Texas Tech, number 10 versus 11. Random kind of conference game there in the Big 12, but it turned out to be quite a game. And West Virginia came back and won it at home against Texas Tech. It got me in the college basketball spirit for the first time this year, Bill. I know we talked about it multiple times. It's been a struggle with the COVID issues, mainly football season being altered. I think had a lot to do with me coming around to college basketball, and obviously the Gamecocks being one of the teams in the entire country to play the fewest games right now. But it was nice to be able to feel like I was watching a well-played game that was intense and had some national and conference implications last night.
Okay. I did not watch that one. I watched more Syracuse, Virginia early on. Virginia got hot, scored 81 points. That was a very un-Virginia-like performance, but got into that. Didn't watch as much of the night game. Tried to go to bed early after a busy weekend of NFC and AFC championships and all that came along with that. But I don't know. I feel like I'm going down a path here if I start talking about college basketball. I guess the more I've read recently, yesterday, a lot of news kind of talking about conference tournaments. One of the articles I saw was Louisville and Chris Mack openly discussing the possibility of skipping the ACC basketball tournament if they feel they are a lock for the NCAA tournament. So, I did read a bunch of stuff on that, but I don't know. I'm going to be interested to see how we finish out this college basketball season. The idea of the bubble in Indianapolis, I think, is the using all the facilities up there, excuse me, for the NCAA tournament. We'll see here. We wrap up. It's crazy that we're wrapping up the month of January this week here. When we return on Monday, I know we're in the rest of the week. We'll return on Monday. We go into February. It seems like a very fast month, the final month of the regular season of college basketball.
From an NBA perspective, LeBron James going off for 46 last night for the Lakers. Most points he scored with the Lakers. They beat the Cavs 115-108. And it was, if you're a real big NBA fan, you might have been excited. I saw our Pearson Fowler was tweeting about Doncic versus Jokic. And it turned out to be a decent game. It was weird. Jamal Murray, did you guys see that video yet? Ejected for the cheap shot. Not cool.
Oh, yeah, the low blow, right?
And former Gamecock P.J. Dozier not able to play in that one for Denver either because of an injury, I believe, going into that thing. But, yeah, Murray hit Tim Hardaway Jr. in the second half and was ushered right out of there. And 117-113. The Nuggets end up winning that game over Dallas in the NBA. We haven't really talked much NBA, and I think for good reasons. Bill, I feel like we have just come to the point where we can almost, to some degree, exhale with Shane Beamer and the new coaching staff. I felt like it was just seemingly day after day after day and spreading out into weeks where we were getting more news in with Shane Beamer after a bit of a lull at the beginning, and then the coaching staff continued to fill out. And now that last week it's done, it's full. I put out another video last night of Luke Day and the team working out, and the whole deal of winter workouts. Feel like, at least I feel like it's a bit more settled and moving forward now over at Carolina. Now it's from an SEC perspective, it's all about watching the Tennessee situation, isn't it?
Yeah, seeing where Tennessee goes. I don't know. I think you're still watching South Carolina. I think that you're watching signing day next week, the transfer portal, Jason Brown and E.J. Jenkins, the quarterback and wide receiver from St. Francis, and seeing what developments happen there. So I think there's stuff you're still watching. And then also just trying to get a grasp of what exactly Shane Beamer and this staff is going to do, what the team is going to look like before we get to spring ball. Just little things. You mentioned the video that they put up last night. I think, people are eating that stuff up right now. So Justin King at 6:09, you should be up right now over there doing your best, not sleeping or anything. But I'm with you. Obviously, right now we're still watching to see what happens at Tennessee. Signing day a week from tomorrow. We'll see if they're able to kind of get everything in place and who exactly they want. There was a lot of speculation on Sunday that yesterday Tony Elliott would be named the new coach at Tennessee. That obviously didn't happen. Some other names popped up. I don't know what to believe and what not to believe. Did you guys see the two, Twitter rumors about the amount of money thrown at James Franklin and Matt Campbell?
No. What were the numbers? Let's hear this.
$8 million from Tennessee for Matt Campbell, who politely declined, and then I never saw. Hey, again, I Twitter rumors on this, so I don't know if that's legitimate or not. But it did come from what I would say is a credible source, one of the national guys, Pete Thamel, Dennis Dodd, or anything. I think it was just guys in Knoxville saying that this is what Tennessee's trying to do. Wes Rucker, I know, who I always follow, was kind of thing. He gives that. It's a lot, but Tennessee right now is in a position where they're trying to make the move. They are trying desperately to get that thing up there kind of fixed. And obviously going after those two guys and that amount of money is not unheard of. I think Jimmy Haslam, the Browns owner, is one of the guys that's really working behind the scenes to put something together.
Do you know where that family's money came from?
Gas stations? Is that what
like all the pilot gas stations. I just looked that up the other day.
J? I was going to say Flying J. They're the pilot people.
I think Flying J is a subsection of Pilot.
Gotcha.
I think they're all under the same umbrella. But then the Pilot founder's sons became Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns, and the governor of Tennessee. Like, what a ridiculously powerful family.
I was reading up yesterday on the Tennessee power situation. Nice work.
LSU's got a D coordinator now too.
Mm-hmm.
So, what about the thought that Tony Elliott doesn't even want to put himself in that situation? I read a lot about this yesterday as well, and the tricky part, I think, for a lot of guys possibly being offered, like Matthew just hits us up on the Facebook live stream. You guys think Tony would leave Clemson for Tennessee? Typically, that's an absolute no-brainer, right? Offensive coordinator at Clemson, the head coach at Tennessee. But with NCAA issues hanging over, I think that's a huge difference maker this time around. And that's what I was reading yesterday about discussing the merits of how attractive this job is, Bill. Where do you put it in the current situation, not knowing exactly the details of the how far the NCAA sanctions are going to reach? I read something about 50 violations is what they're going to find or something like that somewhere. And then how major or minor and what kind of impact will they have? I know yesterday you said scholarship reduction, probably maybe a 1-year bowl ban, something to that effect is what you think might be in the range of Tennessee issues or punishment coming up from the NCAA.
Well, I think in regards to Tony Elliott, it reminds me a lot of Bob Stoops, and I always use Bob Stoops as the example when he was the hot coordinator at Florida under Steve Spurrier. He became such a hot name on the coaching circuit that he basically had his choice of jobs, and he could sit back and he didn't have to settle. And I feel like that's what Tony Elliott's doing. And that leads you to the next point of what you just brought up about Clemson and saying, hey, is this job, Tennessee, is this job one that he really wants to take? Or does he look out there and say, hey, I can put myself in position for LSU maybe in a year or two? Or, if Florida comes open, if Dan Mullen, it's hard to say that Dan Mullen will still be at Florida in 3 years the way he's kind of pursuing the NFL or did it this offseason. Does Tony Elliott look at those jobs? Is there an ACC job that maybe he covets and wants a little bit more than he thinks he can be more successful at? He's compensated fairly well at Clemson. There's incredible stability and job security there. You're right. You go to Tennessee. You don't know what violations. The Tennessee administration can tell you, oh, don't worry, it's going to be okay. Some scholarships, maybe a bowl ban. You don't know what the NCAA is going to do. We all are pretty confident that they're not going to hit them with the death penalty. We would assume that it's not going to be SMU-like. Could it be somewhere along the lines of Southern Cal and Penn State in recent years? Those are two of the worst. Can y'all think of anything worse than Southern Cal and Penn State in recent years? Does that seem?
And not off the top of my head.
Obviously, two different reasons those schools got in trouble. But when we talk about sanctions and what was done to those schools and how they were limited, I don't know. And it depends. Again, what is Tennessee offering? Is it a 5-year guaranteed contract for say $4 million? Are you getting $20 million guaranteed? Is it 4.5? Like, what does it kind of work for you to have to take that job, knowing that you could be facing some issues down the line? I don't know if that's a job that he would necessarily leave for, and that's what I think is going to make it very difficult for guys who maybe don't have a connection. Jamey Chadwell certainly is from Tennessee. Maybe that's a job that he would get very excited about. Billy Napier from Tennessee, maybe a job that he would get very excited about and would want. But after those two guys, I don't know where exactly Tennessee might look at. So it's definitely something that's interesting today as Danny White tries to hire his next coach or his first coach at Tennessee.
I think they're following the planes there, doing the typical volunteer fan base thing. I've seen Gruden's name pop up. Somebody on social media was like, wouldn't it be hilarious if they hired your boy Jay Gruden, Patrick, the old Washington football team coach with all the John Gruden rumors through the year? Well, liking a coach and then thinking he's the guy that needs to be hired. Those are two different things, aren't they? Like everybody, I feel like right now
to turn around a program like that.
Yeah, what is? Who is? You mentioned the Tennessee natives there, but it would be quite the step up for either one of those guys, Jamey Chadwell or Billy Napier, and then to be put in the position to deal with NCAA issues at the same time. That's a big ask, I think. Wanted to mention some of you guys weighing in on the program. Travis, the first up on the old Facebook Live feed this morning with a good morning. I think he's over in Chapin. Timothy weighing in right after that. Hi from Raleigh. Morning, Timothy, from up in North Carolina and Raleigh. And then a couple of you weighing in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Paulie in first at 803-404-6100. Morning from the big city of Branchville, he says. And how about some Gamecock baseball? Yeah, this is crazy. I'm looking up the date right now. Still don't even have the non-conference schedule released. At least the SEC schedule did come out the other day. February 19th is the first day that college baseball can get going. So less than a month away, we all assume. And Gamecock baseball getting going. Another poll out yesterday. The Gamecocks in a similar spot nationally at number 18. In the latest poll, I believe it might have been collegiate baseball yesterday. We've seen several others with the Gamecocks. It was Baseball America yesterday, but I think it was pretty good consensus with the Gamecocks and plenty of preseason expectations this year. We talked about college basketball just kind of getting going and how unique it's been. I get the feel that college baseball will be very similar, Bill, once we finally get towards that. Ideally, maybe that'll help bring us back to a little bit more normalcy. But at this point, without even a schedule, it's difficult to put my money on that, I guess is the best way to put that. What about you?
Well, we're just waiting on opening weekend. We know the schedule, right? We know all the teams they're going to play. We know every team they play. We know the SEC schedule. We just don't have the non-conference weekend set yet, right? Like I think we're still talking about Clemson being the second or third weekend. We just don't know opening. When exactly is opening weekend? Typically, it's what Valentine's weekend is. Valentine's is a Sunday. PSA for all you guys out there. Make sure you do something very nice. But I think that's probably
the next Friday that you can start college baseball season.
Yeah, so it'd be kind of interesting, but you're right, and I don't know. You're right. That's another big step. I think this week, to me, I watched a little bit of golf over the weekend. The American Express Championship, our tournament that was played out in California at the stadium course. But I think it's this weekend where it really starts to get fun. I've watched a little bit of the tournaments out in Hawaii, But this weekend, I believe, is the first major. We're at Torrey Pines this weekend, the Farmers Insurance Open. This is where I think a lot of the big names come out, and you start really getting into the PGA season. I was looking; it doesn't have the tee times yet, just to see who was playing this weekend. But you get a little bit of PGA going. I saw yesterday some discussion about spring camp for baseball, for Major League Baseball. We were kind of talking about it. We're turning the page into the month of February, the final countdown to March Madness, and we'll see what we get there. And then you throw in a little college baseball, hopefully kicking off within the next 2 weeks. Hey, yesterday, by the way, 60 degrees after feeling like we need to wear our parkas and winter hats for the last several days. Yesterday was quite a change from the normal net as well. So, Tim, I feel good this morning. I am perky, happy, and excited.
Oh, no, part of the background just falls down off the wall there. We'll see if it all comes down for me. Not yours, mine.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Everything's all right. Your 2 receiver gloves that you added to your background are doing okay. My little Caddyshack golf towel fell down off the wall. I'll see if I can get that going here and regroup. 803-404-6100 is the number. Yeah, you're talking about the golf schedule, Torrey Pines this weekend. To me, it really gets going next week when they get going out in Phoenix. Waste Management Open at the same week that the Super Bowl is, and what the nice laid-back atmosphere that typically is. I know it's going to be different this year, but is maybe the most fun golf tournament that there is out there. Several more of you with some questions up early with us on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Scott's wondering about signing day, especially as it pertains to the Gamecocks. We'll get to that when we come right back. Taking our first break of the morning. Glad you're up early with us on a Tuesday. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
Clear. All right, credit.
Oh, yeah. We are turning the page. The month of February, not far away. And before you know it, short month, before you know it, we'll be into March. And that's right, we'll be steamrolling through 2021. Things you want to take advantage of early on, though, how about interest rates? They're exceptionally low right now. And that's when you need to jump. You need to refinance, or you need to buy that dream home that you've been thinking about. You need to use my man, the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder, with First Palmetto Bank. Give him a phone call this morning, 803-719-1005. You can also email him, the letter J, Crowder, CROWDER, at firstpalmetto.com. Don't wait around and miss an excellent opportunity. You can save money on your monthly mortgage payments. All you need to do is shoot Jacob a text message this morning, maybe give him a phone call. He'll get in touch with you. You get the process going. It's very easy. And if you're thinking about buying a home, now's a great opportunity. Interest rates are low. You can purchase a home much larger than you were thinking about for roughly the same amount because of the interest rates. Don't wait around. Give Jacob Crowder a call, 803-719-1005. That email again is the letter J, Crowder, CROWDER, at firstpalmetto.com. He's the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder, with First Palmetto Bank.
Yeah, the tape on the old golf towel, not the best way to go, apparently.
Oh, it's so close to getting through 1 second. All right, so new health kick this morning. New health kick.
Uh-oh.
Well, last night I ordered, I'm going to try this coffee. Have you seen the Phil Mickelson coffee for wellness?
I haven't seen it, but I've kind of heard that he's doing stuff, and I've seen him like repost guys that are doing fasts or whatever with it.
So I ordered that last night. I want to try that, but partially because I'm lazy, partially because it's just something to maybe for the next few weeks see if I can do. No coffee creamer. Big adjustment, obviously.
Wow. It's a major commitment in your life.
This is huge. Yeah, this is, I mean, for something that's been a foundation of me here on the show for 4.5 years or whatever, this is a big adjustment. This is really big news. No coffee creamer, just straight black coffee.
So why the Mickelson coffee, though?
Just wanted to try something new. That goes back to just buying different coffees. and I figured I'd try, see what I was kind of reading about it. It's supposed to give you energy and I don't know, healthy. I don't know.
That's what coffee does.
Right? How is it different?
No, I don't think it's. Let's see. Go back here and read benefits. It says it's energizing, nutritious, and it's got It's got these.
Are you gonna say digestive and energy?
No, nutritious,
So coffee?
delivering a boost of wellness. I was going to read the top line, and the top line is a very poor start. But it's got powerful amino acids derived from green tea, calming brain chemicals that promote relaxation and reduce stress, paired with caffeine, L-theanine, THEAINE, improves focus and cognitive function, improves metabolism. Collagen supports skin health. Yeah, I'm in. It helps me hit bombs. I agree, Travis. It will help me hit bombs. So yeah.
Calves. That's the question. That's the question to me.
I did not work out on the calves yesterday. I did more of a core workout at the gym.
You can do calf raises at your house just while you're drinking your coffee though.
While I'm doing the show.
Yeah. Why not? Calves are the easiest thing to work out.
I actually think I have nice calves already.
Thank you, Josh. Good to see he's up early with us. A little love there. I haven't gotten a YouTube comment yet. I think they're enabled today.
Yeah,
I think I figured out the button that I needed to push to enable the YouTube stream comments.
It looks like it.
All right. Still looking for YouTube comment number 1 in the history of the early game stream.
So you can't turn it on now. You have to wait till tomorrow.
No, I think it's ready to go. Morning, Carlton. Carlton's in on the program. Pumped about the SC State representation in the Super Bowl.
So black coffee, a little bit of core workout, get some basketball tonight.
Yep, I got the last 7- and 8-year-old game tonight. How much longer is your season going, Bill?
Saturday is supposed to be our last game, but we had the first one canceled, so I don't know if they're doing a makeup or not. But we picked soccer up on Monday.
Woo, that's quick.
Yeah.
That's an early soccer season.
Yeah, that too. Patrick, were those the only two?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to cut a quick zero res, Patrick, but we'll do it right after the live stream if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
All right. 803-404-6100. You can call or text. Scott does it on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line this morning. How many kids are we looking to sign? Bill, you mentioned it in the first segment, talking about I was saying how I feel like I can exhale. I feel like the news cycle, at least that was just churning almost constantly with the Mike Bobo and Will Friend and Tracy Rocker exits, and then other coaches signing up, and finally Shane Beamer filling out his coaching staff finally from, I think, our perspective on the outside looking in. I guess from a coach's perspective, when you're talking about a guy who's looking at the long term and planning on being in the program for years and years, if not decades and decades, like his dad did at Virginia Tech. It was a pretty short period, I'm guessing, from Shane Beamer's perspective in that way. But Gamecock football moving on now that they have everyone in place. And I saw Patrick DeMarco on social media yesterday in the facility, and and throwing out the quote that it's an NFL facility, and Gamecock coaches certainly promoting that. Gamecock social media as well. Let's go with signing day is the next big date here coming up. Just a week from tomorrow. Is that National Signing Day again, the second one?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think? What are you expecting from a Gamecock perspective 1 week from tomorrow, Bill, being the resident recruiting nerd that you are?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I haven't gotten a concrete answer on what you're allowed to sign. South Carolina's class, they could sign 21 guys, and I've seen Wes Mitchell and Hale McGranahan, and they haven't been going back and forth. But I think there's some debate on whether, like, you take David Spalding. You obviously took up Marion Brown, Jason Brown, and EJ Jenkins, Debo Williams. It's 5 transfers that I can remember off the top of my head. Jakeem Green is 6. Obviously, those guys aren't signing. 4 of them: Green, Spalding, Debo Williams, and Brown are already in school. So I'm not sure. It doesn't seem to be a concrete answer on if taking transfers, how much it affects who you sign, the number of people that you can sign. So I do know South Carolina is pursuing multiple other players. Jordan Mosley, a wide receiver, is one of them. Jawan Gaston, a defensive back. They're after 2 or 3 junior college linebackers. So, like Craig says, we only have 3 spots. But is that going to the 21? Is that going to the 85? They're South Carolina. It doesn't seem like, again, the NCAA did a good job here with being very clear on what you can sign. A lot of people are saying 3 spots in this class, but then I've also heard that we're not sure if these transfer portal guys count as part of your signing class, if that makes sense. And then I've not seen a solid number on where South Carolina stands exactly with the scholarship. I know the seniors that elect to come back. So, for example, Jabari Ellis electing to come back did not count against the 85 that you have this year. It's going to be an 85-person scholarship limit, but your seniors, let's say you have 10 seniors that come back, you'd have 95 scholarship guys, but obviously those seniors will fall off after next year.
So it's a big question mark, but don't you feel like, Bill, that it's not just for South Carolina, that a lot of other programs are dealing with this, especially any kind of program in flux right now? We talked at length last week about the 8 SEC programs that are dealing with a new coach, either for a first year with 4 programs or going into his second year for other programs.
You say going into 4 other programs? Sorry, say that again. My headset cut out.
Oh, the live stream is getting them. I saw you were reading Craig's question. Is that what you're doing over there? And congrats to Anthony with the first YouTube comment in this morning. I screwed that up yesterday, and we didn't have those live stream comments enabled. That really ticked off some people.
No, that's that again.
South Carolina's not going to be the only one that you have a big question mark at this point going into next week, correct?
You know, again, I haven't followed it. It's strange for a person. You got to remember, my background in getting into radio, doing all this, was in recruiting, and I've talked about it with Dana Hartley and Josh Lowe, with a lot of Wes Mitchell, with a lot of other great people traveling around the state 10 years ago, 12 years ago, going over to Atlanta for this particular signing day, for what's always been the first signing day, and knowing really what's going on at other schools and tracking bigger prospects. And obviously the last few years, we've kind of talked about it, Tim. I remember the first year they had the early signing period, and us at 107.5, we weren't really sure what to do. And I don't think the first year that we had a show, if I remember correctly, we didn't do a signing day show. We thought, it would be the same as it's always been with the second signing day being the big deal. And we were wrong. And we saw how big of a deal the early signing period was. And you've seen it grow to the point that this year, I really have zero clue what's going on outside of South Carolina. And that's now including a transfer portal that it feels like you're tracking more closely than recruiting. Tennessee, I think, had another linebacker. They got one back. They had another one go into the portal last night, it looked like. So you feels like you're tracking the transfer portal more than signing day. And while next Wednesday is certainly a big day, with the transfer portal being the way it is, you know that that's going to go on through at least the end of May and possibly into June. You're going to have kids that go through spring ball and either don't like new coaches or don't like their spot on the depth chart. You saw Mike Jones yesterday, the Clemson linebacker, who looked around and now saw all 11 starters back for Clemson and probably thought, hey, to get legitimate playing time, I need to transfer. I haven't seen any quotes from him on why he's transferring. I just saw that he's transferring. But I say all that because it doesn't – this is the weirdest signing day that I've ever been a part of, and I'm not tracking it in the manner that I used to. Patrick, you're a recruiting geek like me. I think you and I've had conversations about it for a long time, and you would agree it's completely different than – I mean, even last year when these years were – I think last year at least we were following Jordan Birch and saying, all right, what's Birch about to do? Is he going to stick? Is he not going to stick? I guess we'll find out next week. There's not even a big-time prospect like that, at least from a South Carolina standpoint, that we're tracking.
Tennessee, their highest-ranked recruit from last year's class, I'm seeing, is headed over to Oklahoma.
From their highest-ranked recruit from their last two classes are going to Oklahoma.
Okay, interesting.
Morris, and Wanya Morris, yeah.
So my question to you guys is, from Shane Beamer's perspective, how attractive would a Tennessee transfer be right now? What do you even test the waters there? Are you at a place? What about, you mentioned the Clemson linebacker? Gamecocks need linebackers. Are you at a place where you feel like you need to throw? You need to test the waters. You need to weigh, to talk to these guys to see their interests. Gauge is the word I'm looking for. You need to gauge their interest, or can you be a little choosier about that? And we've heard a lot about culture since Shane Beamer's taken over, and you got to have the right guys and the whole thing. How do you weigh, I guess, is what I'm asking, the scale of need for a position and players and talent and depth and the whole thing with getting the right guys, especially as you start this thing out, Bill?
Well, it's like Beamer's talked about too. You can't. Everything is through Zoom. You can't get these guys on campus, and you can't really get to know them. You can't go visit them. So it's still kind of an issue there with, you can't get to really find out a lot. You know what the player is through talking to former coaches. Shane Beamer talked about with Jakeem Green, talking to Nebraska coaches that he knew from his time at Oklahoma and how complimentary they were of Green. I don't know if you're going to call up to Clemson and have a conversation with Brent Venables about Mike Jones. I guess you could call former Tennessee coaches and talk to them about their players. Maybe you get a more honest answer because they're not coaching those guys anymore. And I mean, it's need. It's need, and then where you rank those guys on your board. I think you've got Bam Scott, who's a linebacker out of junior college out in Kansas. Joko Willis is a guy who I haven't heard much about lately, but it's another linebacker that's a junior college linebacker. Then you kind of compare those guys with guys that are in the portal. I think also we're naive with this transfer portal. If these kids behind the scenes are not already making contact. So I think Shane Beamer kind of has alluded to that, where he'll get a phone call, or somebody on your staff who has a connection will get a phone call from a high school coach or somebody, go, hey, this kid's probably going to enter the transfer portal. Are you going to be interested? I think before a kid hits the portal, most of the time the coaches are probably well aware of what his intentions are likely to be in terms of what schools he's looking at. So I don't even know if you get necessarily the option to throw your name in the ring and try and really recruit that kid. Because I feel like a lot of kids, like if you're Mike Jones, you might already have an idea. Do you want to go closer to home? Do you want to go somewhere else? I feel like you probably already have an idea of what you're trying to do.
It reminds me of Shane Beamer talking the other day, said when he was back at Oklahoma a couple of days ago, just watching his kids' basketball games as they continue to kind of tie up loose ends out there from a family perspective. Other Oklahoma coaches whose kids were in that league were on the phones and and dealing with the similar transfer issues. But you're right. It's got to be. It's like the line that I read in my John Grisham books that a lawyer in a trial should never ask a question without knowing the answer. It's kind of, I feel like that from a transfer perspective for college football players. You probably shouldn't transfer or announce a transfer unless you know where you're going or you have a really good idea. And I'm sure that's probably more how it works behind the scenes as opposed to how we get the information from the outside. Carlton hits us up, says it's like throwing darts with your eyes closed. I think it might be a little bit more scientific than that, but there is a lot to it for sure. Jonathan hits us up, says off subject, guys, on the Cool Air Heating and Air text line. You guys ever going to be back in studio?
No, never.
Just Patrick right now spreading his wings in the Herndon Chevrolet studios in downtown Columbia. You can actually see him if you want to check out the stream. We got him up and rolling. I've tweeted out those links at Tim Hill 1075. You can go and search. We had an anonymous texter looking for it on YouTube, and you can just go search the 1075 page on YouTube. You can find it on Facebook. We've been 1075 The Game Facebook page as well. You can search there. Up and rolling there. As I sit in my garage, Bill is in his house, and Patrick's hanging out in his studio. Going to get to another step in the SEC football offseason process, this one for LSU and its defensive coordinator. And I think it, to me, signals what we've already seen at South Carolina by and large. I'm wondering what it might mean for this Tennessee head coaching search. We'll do that when we come back. Again, 803-404-6100. If you would like to join, you can call or text that number. It's the early game. It's 1075 The Game.
Quick. Love.
Praise from Courtney Levitt this morning. The camera angles look better today. He's praising us. That's nice news. That's great news that we're stepping in the right direction. I will admit I feel a little self-conscious now. There's things I'm typically doing on the radio, like texting on my phone or doing something, and I feel I have to pay better attention to what we're doing. That's exciting news. Maybe not for you, but it is for me. Let me tell you, exciting news for you. It's the move of Love Automotive and Casey over to Love Chevrolet. You've always visited Love Chevrolet for a great selection of brand new vehicles. Now, when you visit Love Chevrolet, you also get an incredible inventory of pre-owned vehicles. That's right, the whole team, the sales staff, the great selection of vehicles, all going over to Love Chevrolet in Harbison. So it truly becomes your one-stop shop when you're looking for a new or pre-owned vehicle. You've heard me talk about the great sales team. You've heard me talk about the incredible deals, the $1,000 low price guarantee, and you've always heard me talk about the selection. It just got better. Go visit Love Chevrolet, I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. You can always visit them on the web, lovechevy.com. Again, your one-stop shop, the largest selection, the lowest price guarantee. Go visit Love Chevrolet, I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, or on the web, lovechevy.com.
It's awesome to see Patrick responding to questions during the middle of our gas baggy hot takes. Love it.
How did he do that? Where did he respond to that?
He did it in YouTube. I guess he's signed in on the YouTube comments.
Gotcha.
Or with his Google account.
I gotcha.
Well done, Patrick. I was just saying how impressed I was with you responding to Raphael there on the YouTube comments.
Yeah. I need to finish this.
Oldest 25-year-old ever.
So right now, if we had a guest on, we wouldn't be able to stream their audio. You're shaking your head. No.
We could send them the link, and they could pop in just like we're in, and they could call in just like they normally would. You know what I mean?
But they'd still have to just be on here and then talking on a cell phone.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where we're still I don't think we can get around that. And then we got to figure out how to get the show audio in so there's not these odd pauses. Thank you guys for your patience when we're listening to the intros. We're just sitting here. So if we could do that, but then I don't know the logistics, how practical that is to be able to unplug during the breaks and talk like this and have the show audio going during the show. I think that would probably, you'd have to change like your audio input, I'm guessing. I don't know if you can do that midstream, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, we have better camera angles today, so maybe we'll get better audio going tomorrow. Take baby steps here.
Hey, it's a brand new year.
Please tell me the thought process of laying those gloves on that shelf, sir.
That was the best place to put it. There was no thought process. 4.5 years in, you think there's a thought process for anything I really do?
Just wear them, and every once in a while, just throw them up. They're the ones that make the see if you put them together.
Yeah. This was Darius Rush gave these to Austin.
Oh, that story. That's a good story.
Felt bad. Poor kid. He had dropped everything thrown to him that day. You like that? Yeah. Right. That good?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Morning, Amanda. Yes, Roger. Raj, yes, we're in a commercial right now, but not on the live stream, just on the show.
Sure. Now we're never in commercial. No bathroom breaks for 3
I
hours.
was very confused with this live stream thing. Feel like you and Raj are very much kindred spirits, Bill.
No, I know. I understand the live stream.
What about
Little LSU defensive coordinators where we'll start here.
All right.
yeah?
If LSU can't get the defensive coordinator they want, where are we in SEC football? And having said that, when LSU goes out and gets a big name, very familiar name, defensive coordinator, and it goes horribly wrong, maybe that's exactly where Ed Orgeron and company are. They go to the NFL finally and fill their. If you think it took a little while for Shane Beamer to fill spots, what about a program that had just won the national championship how many days ago? 390 maybe? 380 days ago? And they got turned down a couple of times. They went after the guy who ended up going to Notre Dame and Cincinnati defensive coordinator Marcus Freeman. I think they went after Mississippi State's coordinator, the same one that Shane Beamer flew over to Starkville to see, and it still appears, guys, it's been kind of oddly quiet around the Mississippi State defensive coordinator, and he's a guy that I can't even remember his name off the top of my head. It's Zach Arnett. I was double checking that one here on the computer just to make sure I'm right. That's how quiet it's been. I feel like he hasn't been in the news at all.
I
But
think his
Devontae
buyout
Jones,
has been scaring people. I think his buyout got bumped up to $1 million, and it's scaring teams away.
that's not scaring LSU.
Apparently it was. Yeah, I think there was
I think people just went with guys they deemed as better choices. The Zach Arnett
Okay,
thing.
then help me out then with Devontae Jones, a defensive backs coach in the NFL for the last couple of years, a former Dave Aranda assistant at Wisconsin when he was last in college at 2015. He's a relatively young guy, 41 years old, no major coordinator experience. His last coordinator job was in Division II.
I think
this is why I bring this up. This is surprising to me. Devontae Jones gets the nod at LSU. Please, explain.
Well, you said it. You said it in your sentence. Who did he work for? Dave Aranda. Who did? And it's just, you know how coaches are. And I think Ed Orgeron, Patrick, you're an LSU fan. Ed Orgeron has kind of backed himself into a corner, right? Like the way things kind of went this year, with the on-field stuff. B, you have now some transfers. You had some guys opting out, and then you've got the off the field issues. I think this is a situation where Dave Aranda probably stepped in. They probably went to him, a guy who won them a national championship. They paid $2 million for Dave Aranda to be their defensive coordinator, and I think this is a situation that was very simple. I think Ed Orgeron went with a comfort hire, a guy that Dave Aranda probably recommended. That's the only explanation I have. I'm doing my best.
Sure.
I see your face. I'm doing my best to explain it.
What I heard was that after they struck out a couple times, people started reaching out to them, and then they started doing some interviews, and they were really impressed by Durante Jones in the interview. But the idea is that he'll just go back and run exactly what they did with Dave Aranda. Apparently, Bo Pelini was just not a very good communicator. Durante Jones, from all people that have worked with him, is a great communicator, and maybe that's why LSU just had busted coverages left and right last year. But the biggest issue here now is that LSU's best assistant coach, their recruiting coordinator, is Corey Raymond, who is from New Orleans, played at LSU, and has recruited all of the defensive backs that you see playing on Sundays right now. And he wanted the defensive coordinator job, but they didn't want to give him the defensive coordinator job. And all that Durante Jones has ever coached is defensive backs. So I don't know if he's going to be able to coach something else, and maybe he'll say, I'll go coach the linebackers, and Corey Raymond can stick around and coach the DBs, but that could potentially be a big issue for them too. I do think they were running out of options, and they just decided to say, all right, look, we'll take somebody who's young and hungry and has coached in the NFL. He's coached at every level. He's coached in the CFL. He's coached in Division II. He's coached in Division I. He's pretty much done everything, but he's not a big flashy name. And they've struck out with Matt Canada. They struck out with Bo Pelini. They tried two big name coordinators, and Ed Orgeron whiffed on both of them. So
how does that make South Carolina fans feel when you see Ed Orgeron in LSU a national championship, and that's the guy you go to hire? Because I wonder if it changes just your perception of the hiring process, or if you look at LSU and Ed Orgeron and say, man, they're right now LSU can turn it around quickly, right? Like LSU next year, I don't know their non-conference schedule, but next year they could go 10-2 very easily next year, right? Miles Brennan is back. We know they're loaded. They got a top 5 recruiting class. And I only say that, I was going to say, because there seems to be a lot of issues down there, but it's not like issues at Tennessee or at South Carolina. Like that thing can be turned around very quickly. But I just ask, when you see Ed Orgeron have to go out and get a guy like that, a name like that, not be able to just go pluck any defensive coordinator, the hot name, away from a program, does it change your perception a little bit of the hiring process? And I think what you're about to watch happen with Tennessee, Tennessee's got to keep that thing under wraps, right? Because if it gets out that let's say Tony Elliott and Billy Napier, I mean, both guys who are becoming notorious for turning down jobs, turned down Tennessee, and it looks like Tennessee's on to option number 3, and a guy from Lafayette has turned you down, and a guy that's a career assistant head coach turns you down, even if he's the hot up-and-coming guy. That's a bad look, right?
Yeah, but can we go back to LSU? Because we bounced from two things there. I think it makes you maybe feel better because LSU, a team with the cachet of LSU, couldn't get the first candidate they wanted, but also when they make this hire, coming off of one of, if not the worst season they've ever had as a program, probably doesn't make you feel as good. But they have UCLA on the non-conference next year, along with McNeese and Central Michigan and Louisiana Monroe. So, I mean, they need to go 10-2. They're at home against Texas A&M. They're at home against Florida. They're at home against Auburn. So, I mean, they can lose to Alabama, and they can probably lose one more game. But Ed Orgeron can't go 8-4. He can't. That's not going to fly next year. I think he loses his job with the 8-4 season.
See, I go 7-5. I go 7-5. And we all know it depends on what, if you went 8-4, how those losses went down, if they're close or not, and what kind of coaching issues may have happened. I mean, we saw Les Miles bumble stuff for years down there. I get it that,
but never that bad. I think the worst he did was probably 9 wins, right?
Yeah, from a record standpoint, I hear what you're saying. I'm just saying his classic clock management issues way back in the day. If you're looking at coaching issues, it was easy to point stuff out with Les Miles, and maybe because Ed Orgeron came in with his Ole Miss baggage, he doesn't get the leash that Les Miles did. But I think the fact that he is so authentically Louisiana probably balances that out and the whole thing. I'm just really surprised, guys, that he went with the guy who worked with the guy here. That hasn't been proven at all. I get it. Bo Pelini was pretty proven largely in college football and was a complete bust. It just seems like at LSU specifically in the last several years, more than any other college football program, maybe you would say Clemson and Brent Venables and who they've had running their offense as well. The coordinators have been so important with what Joe Brady ended up doing with Dave Aranda and the success they had on defense.
20.
To go with a pretty unproven guy that just happened to work with Aranda. Bill, I'm kind of with what you were asking there. It does change my perception a little bit about the names that ended up joining Gamecock football from an assistant coaching standpoint. We'll talk more about it as we roll into hour number 2 here on the early game.
Quick.
Hour 2.
So if I do that, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Okay, so I turned my volume all the way down. I was just wondering if people are just watching through the stream and I hit the little mute button, I didn't know if it was still picking up. Like, can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, you should mute the volume on your computer, but don't mute your mic. They can all hear us. We just can't hear out of our computer.
I never used this computer, so I didn't know if I just hit that one button, if it muted everything.
That's just your speaker.
Just
for you.
Yeah. Just your speaker. Oh, we're working it out this morning. Let's see. I see. So does that mean, Kovar, are you watching the Tiger Woods documentary, I'm guessing? And have you guys seen any of that? Patrick, you seen it at all?
No, I'm going to watch it now. I just had to get the new HBO Max sign, and mine expired when I tried to watch it a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I thought Bill was going to take us to the bathroom with him.
Why would you think I would do that?
You just turned it. It looked like you were walking.
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to get more coffee. And I got yelled at yesterday for wandering away from this. I figured I doubt you'll be able to see me, but I may as well turn it so you can see what I'm doing.
Watch him walk away. Perfect. Why are we talking about LSU? Let's talk about the NFL head coaches decided to join the dynasty down in Tuscaloosa from Todd. Oh, Todd. A resident Alabama fan, keeping it classy. So Kovar said yes, the Tiger documentary and The Last Dance? Oh, super late to the party, yeah. Kovar, you're an old dude like me. How did you miss The Last Dance in the summer, man?
That was when there was nothing to watch.
So Craig says Tiger is good but scathing. Oh, I guess I could just pop these up here so everybody could be in on the conversation, couldn't I?
Yeah.
That's Kovar's response there.
Well, especially towards his dad in episode 1, yeah. But from everything that I heard, it's like really not bad towards Tiger.
Oh yeah. So where do you think the disconnect is? What do you mean? How can it be scathing but not bad towards Tiger? No. So scathing towards his dad?
Yeah, scathing towards his dad. Like, basically, what I heard is that like he's teaching Tiger. Sends Tiger out to play a couple holes, coaching up some girls, and then taking him to his Winnebago in the parking lot and rolling around while Tiger's out there practicing.
Oh, yikes.
This is talking about his dad?
Yeah.
Yikes. So maybe it's episode 2 then, Craig, going with.
I haven't watched it, so I can't say, but I got the impression from a bunch of people that I talked to that they really just laid out the facts. And, like, Tiger did things that made himself look awful. So the fact that Tiger's all upset because they didn't just only talk about the good parts of him.
Sure.
I've heard from somebody that hates Tiger that it actually made them respect him more because it showed like all the tribulations that led to that. And you can't make a Tiger documentary and just like not mention the crash in the Cadillac and all the mistresses and all that. You can't do that story.
I think he probably. When did that get filmed?
Tiger just wants to control everything that ever comes out about him. Well, that's why I didn't like The Last Dance, because The Last Dance was clearly all through MJ's lens.
I was going to say, when did the Tiger documentary get produced in relation to The Last Dance? Like, if he watched The Last Dance, I can see where he would be like, "Oh, I see how MJ controlled the narrative."
The Tiger documentary is based off a book. I listened to a podcast with the author of the book.
But I think the difference between that documentary and The Last Dance is that Jordan actually had that video.
Jordan had the footage. Yeah, he wasn't releasing the footage.
Exactly. Yeah. Unless he got control. That was the deal.
Yeah.
All the video from Tiger is just out there. There's no secret video that he owns.
Yeah, I mean, The Last Dance was entertaining, but it was clearly a puff piece the whole time.
Ooh, puff piece.
It was.
I'd say it was clearly from Jordan's perspective.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about documentaries, man. I feel like we need to change the rules about documentaries. The first 2 solid minutes needs to be a preface about who made it and what perspective they're coming from so we can understand it. Let me figure out how legitimate I think you are as you're telling me this story.
Yeah, I'll watch the Tiger one today. I'll try to get both of them knocked out, but I mean, yeah, he's basically just mad that they talked about the bad years. But
what was he expecting, dude?
I don't know. But the fact that it trashes his dad, I mean, that's scathing towards his dad. Is he mad about that? Because that actually kind of explains his behavior and almost gives not excuses it, I guess, but gives a reason for it and makes it seem like Tiger's had no choice but to be.
Tim, you got YouTube TV, don't you? Still?
Can't quite hear you, Bill.
You got YouTube TV, don't you? Still?
Yeah, still YouTube TV.
Does HBO Max, is that an add-on that you can put on there, or is it just HBO?
I don't even know I don't think it goes through YouTube TV. It just comes in as a separate app, I believe.
What is it, $5.99?
No, HBO Max is $15.
Ooh.
Per month?
Yeah.
Dang.
Is it worth it?
Kinda.
What's on it?
Everything HBO's ever produced, plus a lot of other stuff. I mean, most of the best shows are from HBO.
Craig says he became his dad with Tiger.
Right.
I would say Earl was never the best golfer in the world, sir.
Earl was also not well, I guess maybe he was well built. He was a military guy.
I think he was a very good golfer.
His dad?
Yeah. Obviously.
I think he was a pretty good. I don't know a very good. He's
All right, get in the intro right now.
What?
Jen is making fun of Bill. Actually, Bill just didn't realize we were talking. They got you, huh, Craig? HBO got him for the Tiger documentary.
Well, I guess you could rent it. You could do it for 1 month, $15. If you don't like it, I guess there's no contract to it.
Yep.
Up and rolling live. Streaming the video as well. If you'd like to join Facebook and YouTube, you can just search for 107.5 The Game on those two things. Glad to be with you on a Tuesday morning. Various topics through hour number 1. I would say maybe the most interesting one right now is where's the SEC football hiring landscape, having just gone through it with Shane Beamer filling out his 10-man assistant coaching staff. And last night on social media, Luke Day and company, the strength and conditioning coach, putting out another video about off-season workouts, and it feels like, okay, now it's time to turn the page for the Gamecocks and move into the Shane Beamer era for sure, after it was a awfully newsworthy and I don't even know what to call it, Bill. Tumultuous, maybe? That's probably overstating it with the Mike Bobo situation, Tracy Rocker going over to Auburn with Will Friend, and then getting new names in and becoming familiar with a coaching staff that's not filled with very familiar names. But when you see LSU hire a defensive coordinator who virtually no one's heard of from a fan perspective. Is that fair, Patrick? I know you're an LSU guy. I think it's fair to say the Minnesota Vikings defensive backs coach is not a tremendously high-profile position, and to pluck the LSU defensive coordinator, taking over for a couple of very recent high-profile names. Dave Aranda was the guy before Bo Pelini had a brutal year. Dave Aranda had a tremendous run of success, and it earned him the Baylor head coaching job. And so after being turned down by Marcus Freeman, the Cincinnati defensive coordinator, or I should say, after Freeman chose Notre Dame instead of LSU, after having tested the waters at least with Zach Arnett over at Mississippi State, their defensive coordinator, Ryan Nielsen is the other name that was widely reported, and it seemed like was going to happen, and he was going to be the defensive version, possibly, certainly the same kind of background as Joe Brady, coming from the New Orleans Saints as their defensive line coach, but then he re-ups with the Saints instead of coming to LSU. Having had those guys all in the mix, and then to go with a guy that most of us have never heard of in Durante Jones does make me change the way I'm thinking a little bit, or I'm perceiving the Gamecock coaching staff, having been widely guys who didn't have a ton of SEC experience or NFL experience, but lower level college experience, and Shane Beamer has chosen those guys by and large to come in and fill out his staff, and South Carolina football moving forward with that 10-man coaching staff, and now I know filling out the rest of the staff. We've seen it off the field as well, and Byron Jerideau and Shaq Wilson, a couple of former Gamecock players coming back and helping fill out the staff as they continue to do that and move forward. Bill, you mentioned it. Does it change your perception? And then how is the conversation to go from there if it does change your perception of what's happened at Carolina?
No, I want to ask so like in this case with Durante Jenkins, it's interesting for LSU, but for South Carolina, you can break this into categories. Who are you most interested to see? Who has the most to prove on the staff? Like, who are you most excited about? I think, like, do you think Marcus Satterfield has the most to prove? Are you most interested to see Clayton White in the defense? And then are you most interested to what I said? Then are you most excited about, say, Eric Kimry getting the job and his love and his passion? I think all those can be different things, but I think you'd start with, like, if you have a staff like that, or maybe it's Torian Gray. Maybe you're most excited to see Torian Gray because he comes with a reputation as a recruiter and a defensive back coach, but you feel that Marcus Satterfield's got the most to prove. I think that's where I would go with it, because it feels like with some of these hires, and now if we bring it back to South Carolina, and you start to look at this staff, and you're right, it looks like that the dust is settled, that Beamer now has his full set. Maybe it's Luke Day, totally different kind of coach, but maybe you're most excited to see Luke Day and not see him, but you're going to see a lot of Luke Day over the next 9 weeks if they keep doing these videos. Craig says I think he's going most excited about Justin Stepp. I forgot about Justin Stepp and the work that he can do. And I think that's the interesting point to me. And again, you can have different categories. You can have most to prove, guy that you're most excited to see, guy that you're most skeptical about, or how whatever you want to use. But I think that's interesting when you talk about the South Carolina staff at this particular time.
Well, most to prove has to be Marcus Satterfield, right? He's got the most important job, and he's got no Power 5 offensive coordinator experience, and he's coming from an assistant O-line position.
Well, it's either he or
Clayton White. The most important.
It's either he or Clayton White. And
it's not anymore, though, honestly, because we talked about last year, Nick Saban even admitting that you can't win with defense anymore. You've got to outscore your opponent. So I feel like at this point, your defense is going to be important, but you've got to score points. Like, there's just no excuse to not be putting up 30 points and at least the mid-20s every single week. Like, that's not too much to ask. Not in 2021.
Specifically for the Gamecocks, Bill, as you were talking, it dawned on me, it's probably wherever the position maybe, or wherever your largest frustration was with last year's team, I'm guessing might be the answer to that question. if you were largely frustrated with the quarterbacks in the passing game from the throwing perspective and the lack of production, you're probably going offensive coordinator. But if you put most of the onus on the wide receivers, maybe you go Justin Stepp and you go a specific position group. Patrick, I'm with you. Just where college football is now, the offensive coordinator is so important. And we saw, I guess, the disparity between now Marcus Satterfield's track record with no SEC coordinator experience and only very limited SEC experience at all. And then with what Mike Bobo had and who he was, and knowing that he's still in the league and being able to compare him directly as he's over at Auburn, a team that the Gamecocks beat last year. It's going to be fascinating to see. I think it's Satterfield for sure. KT from Lexington says Justin Stepp will be the best hire on this staff. I think on paper he is, right, Bill? Just 1 through 10. If you go in assistant coaches, maybe just go the new guys 1 through 8. And to pull, he's the only guy coming from another SEC school, having the South Carolina roots and what he's done.
That's not true. Torian Gray, they still consider Florida an SEC school.
Wait, but Torian Gray was not going to be asked back at Florida, correct? That's how
There's a bunch of different rumors on that. I mean, you're right. In talking with David Waters, who does Gator Breakdown, that is the belief that he was not coming back. That is actually a very funny scenario that all of their fans hated Todd Grantham and wanted him fired, yet they basically fired the majority of the defensive staff but kept Todd Grantham.
Right.
But to answer your question, that David Waters does believe that he was that was the situation. Now, he also says that there's a belief down there that Torian Gray had already accepted the South Carolina job, and to make it look like that they were not losing a coach they wanted to South Carolina, they basically just weren't going to retain him.
Okay, but Justin Stepp was retained by a new coaching staff at Arkansas.
Right, but that's fine. But I mean, I think both are going to be very good coaches, and so I don't know if we're going to argue semantics here. But if you're looking at resumes, Torian Gray's having what he's done, Power 5, NFL, everything is a little bit better. Now, I'm not going to sit here and debate whether Justin Stepp's going to be a bad coach or not. I feel like that's a really stupid argument. Justin Stepp's a really, really, really good hire. Torian Gray and Justin Stepp, to me, are really good Power 5 hires, as opposed to, not to put them down, but Clayton White or Marcus Satterfield. You guys would agree with that? Like, we're not going to go – we don't need to go down a path of, it's Gray versus Stepp. They're both really, really good hires. And I understand being very excited about Justin Stepp because he's a local guy. He's from Pillion. You saw the emotion that he had in the press conference. That's really neat to see. He wants to be here, so there's no need to go down that path, but both have strong resumes. I have a completely blanked Adkins, the offensive line coach. I mean, if you look at the funny thing about him was that he fit kind of the SEC retread mold that Marcus Satterfield said that they didn't want to, that they weren't going to have. But if you look at his resume, it's very strong as well. It's Georgia, Florida, some NFL stops, not Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, some NFL stops as well. Like, it's very good resume for him as well when you talk about entire body of work.
Greg Adkins, who you're talking about.
Greg, thank you. Not Gino. Gino Adkins would have been strange.
I'm just talking about perception. And we all know, I think LSU is the best place to go, right, to understand the perception of a hire and the reality of a hire. Nobody knew. Maybe the very plugged-in people were maybe really excited about Joe Brady's hire from New Orleans as it was happening or right before it happened. Patrick, do you remember was there buzz around that?
Yeah, there was
I know there was buzz afterwards and that things were changing, but I'm talking about as the hire was made. Did you read that one on the internet, the wire reports, and say, "Oh, this Joe Brady guy, I've heard some things." I don't remember it being that way at the time.
Well, that was it because he came from New Orleans, so
right.
Within that same kind of family, like lots of people from Baton Rouge and New Orleans were communicating. So the buzz was just like, there is this 30-year-old genius that's working under Sean Payton right now, and he's going to come change things at LSU. So yeah, there was definitely buzz around him as just an absolute whiz.
But compared to his predecessor was Matt Canada, right? I guess it wasn't his direct predecessor because Steve Insbeeker has to step in and clean up that mess. But Matt Canada had the national reputation and was getting paid massive amounts of money. I think maybe the most highly paid offensive coordinator. Bo Pelini, national reputation. Gamecock fans, I'll never forget him. It's just classic. That is the guy, the example I'll use for my kids about being a bad sport. Just being a poor loser at Capital One Bowl with Nebraska, going into that press conference and just being like, "Yeah, I still think we had the better team. We should have won the game." You're clearly just not accepting that you got beat and being a poor sport about it. That was Bo Pelini then. But his reputation coming in, especially defensively, I think it's fair to say similar to Will Muschamp. And maybe Will Muschamp is the best example to use for us here in Columbia about a guy with a great reputation on paper that didn't work out in the SEC. So we've been saying that with the Gamecock coaching staff. But now to see LSU, I understand you go to the NFL and you're well respected. A defensive backs coach there for the Vikings is certainly no slouch job. But as it pertains to some of the names that have been coordinators for LSU in the last few years, Durante Jones is clearly way down the list. And as we evaluate it just from the outside looking in, you would never say home run hire right now. But who knows how it turns out.
And he may have been chosen above Will Muschamp for all we know. Like,
Sure.
Will Muschamp might have been the next guy on that list from a lot of the rumors that have been out there.
By the way, that thing has not gone official over at Georgia, right? I've seen reports again that he's been in and out of the building, but I haven't seen.
Somebody pointed out to me, and I don't know. I'm pretty sure this is legitimate. That because of his son being on staff, I didn't bother digging into the NCAA rules. That I think he's got to be an on the field coach.
Can't be an analyst.
Can't be an analyst
because of his son being on the team.
Right.
And as a walk-on as quarterback there. And I was thinking maybe the timing of the buyout going official with the Gamecocks just a few days ago. I guess that was on Friday. I think that all got wrapped up. And basically the sum was right around that original buyout number that we all saw, right near $13 million. And it's going to be just a lump sum, and they're going to go ahead and pay it off. I was thinking maybe that timing had something to do with not hearing anything official about Will Muschamp's kind of next step. So we'll keep you up to date on that as we get developments of it, but still nothing official with Will Muschamp in his future. But you bring up his name, Patrick, simply because his name has been brought up. What with Steve Sarkisian and Texas possibly returning to his old defensive coordinator spot there. And LSU, obviously, his coach there with Nick Saban back in the day, and plenty of roots all around the SEC. But the latest that I saw anyway was that he had been in and out of the building at Georgia a few times and was expected to kind of join that staff as an analyst. And, Bill, you're thinking that with his son being on the team, that might not even be a possibility with the NCAA.
I think that's. I was actually talking to somebody about that yesterday, and that was their line of thinking. So we'll see.
DB from Sumter hits us up. He does it via Facebook on the live stream there and says Eric Kimrey is the most interesting hire. I can see that's an easy sell, right? A guy with no college football experience, former Gamecock player, legendary play, guy who is doing our noon show here on 107.5 The Game for the last couple of years while winning his 12th state championship there in Skeeza over at Hammond, and now coaching the tight ends. It will be really interesting to see how that works. As I follow Eric on Twitter, obviously, and I've seen him be very active, and it seems like his handle has popped up from a lot of prospects that are getting offers for South Carolina now. Bill, any of those prospects out there surprising you at all? I think I saw maybe one got their first SEC offer from the Gamecocks here recently in the last couple of days, but not a lot of that hasn't been the trend like it was, I feel like, under Will Muschamp. He felt like his calling card, and to get in early and to make sure he had the first offer on a lot of guys.
Well, the reason for that, I think, is there's a lot of evaluation that's got to happen with the 2022 class. I mean, certainly there are, we talk about Torian Gray. I think you were able to see him come in, having been at a Power 5 school. Justin Stepp is in the same boat, too. If you follow who he's offered, you're seeing them offer more high-end prospects. Obviously, with Torian Gray, Sam McCall, the 5-star defensive back out of Lakeland, Florida, basically doing an interview at the end of last week saying that it's South Carolina and Alabama for his services right now. That those are the two schools that stand out, that he's still talking with Florida and he's talking with some other schools, but that it's South Carolina and Alabama at the top. You've seen Justin Stepp get involved with a few wide receivers here or there that he was probably already recruiting at Arkansas. But no offense to any players at Western Kentucky, Clayton White's got to come in. And if he's going to recruit somebody, he's got to kind of up the level of player that he was recruiting. You don't want to recruit the same guy that you were recruiting at Western Kentucky. Greg Atkins, same thing, offensive line there with being at Marshall, now coming to South Carolina. Eric Kimrey's got to get his feet into the evaluation pool and find some tight ends. Obviously, he's got a little bit of help with Shane Beamer, who was already recruiting tight ends at Oklahoma. So a little bit of an overlap there with how he does it. But I think that's what you see. South Carolina still, you're right, the dust has settled from the coaching perspective, but now to me, it's roster management and looking ahead to what you're exactly going to do with the roster, both in 2021, but how you're going to recruit in 2022 as well.
Sure. And Wednesday, a week from tomorrow, National Signing Day Part 2 is the next step, is one of the next steps, I guess I should say, with the transfer portal kind of up and rolling. Interesting question here on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line from anonymous texter. As far as the transfer portal, what's to keep the bigger / more successful programs from using the portal as their own minor league college football? They see a special player develop at a place like Coastal Carolina or Cincinnati, recruit them to transfer over to their bigger program. Looks like just another way for the rich to get richer. I want you to think about that. It sparked something from, in my head anyway, that I think we can make a comparison to a different sport, and it doesn't necessarily follow that logic that the texter's bringing up. We'll get into that as we continue to roll on this morning. 803-404-6100. If you'd like to call or text, the streams are up and rolling. YouTube and Facebook Live. You can just search for 107.5 The Game. Should be able to find us there as well. The Tennessee head football coach is all over the place, and we'll get that going as well, that conversation too. It's the early game here on 107.5 The Game. Oh, it was antsy this morning.
Could you hear the thunder in the background?
Could not. I saw you freaking out. I was wondering.
Oh my goodness! Like, let me see if you can see this. The weather just absolutely went insane. I don't know if you can get a good view. Oh, did you see that?
Ooh, saw that one. That's a good backdrop you got going there, Bill.
Did you just see the lightning?
Saw it. That made it on the live stream broadcast, sir. This is going to be fun viewing.
Tim, since there's no lives, we can combine and keep them both under 5.
Let's do it.
Okay. They'll be like 4:30.
Okay, I'm good with that. Thank you, sir. So we'll take the next one at 40, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that segment, like the weather, the sky, the way the everything was happening was I'm looking from right there out to it.
Dude,
that's down.
That's crazy.
Patrick, it's got to be down there by you. The bottom had to just fall out in front of you.
I will check.
That was really cool to watch. I like watching weather like that, and that some of those bolts of lightning that were coming down.
See if I can get that up and rolling right now.
Looks like it's coming from up the lake, up toward Prosperity and Saluda. That was actually really neat to watch.
Meteorologist. That's tough. Meteorologist.
Let's see if I can turn this without.
So I was able to get a screenshot up and rolling there.
Got my
See.
Christmas lights still up.
All right, Patrick's jetted on us as well. You guys just jetting during the breaks.
Well, I'm right here. I'm turning it so I think I can sit. I'll close the door. Ooh.
No,
You
it looks
see that?
awesome. Yeah, looks great. I popped up a screenshot on Twitter so people will know they need to see some live weather. You're the guy.
You got you took a screenshot of that bolt of lightning?
No, I wasn't able to go back and get that. I'm not quite that savvy yet here.
Oh, what? You can get it. I can get it.
What's that, Patrick? You can go back and get the screenshot of the lightning?
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
How do you take a screenshot?
Yeah, apparently not. I just figured it out on my laptop here. I think every computer's a little different. I don't even know if you
I'm telling you.
desktop. What's that?
It's hard to tell that it's actually lightning in the picture because it's behind a cloud.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dude, you're good that you found it that quick.
You can go back on YouTube pretty easy.
Pretty easily.
Yeah.
Kovar says it looks awesome with the sun coming up. Agreed. And Travis says it's nasty on Chapin on the lake.
Yeah, it was
Agreed.
dark, so you couldn't see the storm coming. And it's right, it's sunny. That way.
Carlton giving his location as simply Richland County.
Well, I was saying, so that view right there is looking back toward Patrick. That's Patrick would be on the other side of the dam out there. Ooh, wind picked up.
Patrick?
Studio where Patrick's at.
View is looking back at Patrick. Gotcha.
That was pretty neat. Yeah, I was paying attention. Heather's got just as good a view as I do. She should be able to see some of the same stuff.
We're back.
Close the door.
Now, this is when we really get the full value of live stream radio. Sorry if you're just hearing our voices right now, but we got lightning on the live stream. Bill has turned his view around to Lake Murray, where it is foggy the best way to put that? It looks foggy to me, or is that just the sun coming up and not quite being able to see we got a good lightning strike right there. I'm going to be that guy doing the play-by-play weather this morning.
I don't like it anymore. Now my back's to the weather. Now I can't see what's happening. I was a minute ago in the last segment. In the last segment, I was looking out to it. I was sitting there facing, and now my back's to it. There was some great lightning. It was really crazy. I'm trying to use the right
fake meteorologist. Yes.
Fake. Yeah, I was going to say half rear end meteorologist, but I love watching weather. I love watching the storms come across the lake. And so as I'm sitting here this morning, it was obviously dark, and out of nowhere, this storm just I shouldn't say out of nowhere. I'm guessing it didn't just form right over Lake Murray, but it came rolling in. And you're right, the sun has come up on one side, and then the storm. Be careful out there. That the thunder and lightning. There was some really hard rain there for a few minutes, but it came up from about the Chapin, what I would say is up the lake, which is Chapin, up towards Saluda and Prosperity, up there where my father lives. But yeah, it was that was fun to watch and really interesting. Some incredible lightning strikes that took place there just during the break.
Travis says it's nasty and Chapin on the lake. Craig says Bill's going to be out there in a slicker, getting blown sideways. No, Bill, I don't see Bill doing the hurricane coverage that you get to see on the Weather Channel. Right? We're not paying you for that. Carlton says, rain jacket. Never heard it called a slicker? Some people do. I've never used that term, I don't think.
Huh.
Did you just say raincoat?
A raincoat, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if there's another name for it.
Carlton says he's got thunder over in the St. Andrews area. Heather is concerned about Bill. Says, get away from the window, will you? She was a little scared. Not going to lie about that. Now raining hard over in St. Andrews, Carlton is. So we got the live time weather for you here at 7:30 on the dot on the early game. We have the live video as well. You get to see a little bit of the lightning show. Bill's going to be turning back and forth. Head on a swivel this segment, Bill.
This is going to be an interesting segment right now because you'll see how invested I can stay in the show and what's happening behind me. We're going to have to change angles here in a minute.
So we had the text before going to break about the transfer portal. And is it just going to keep the bigger, more successful programs that much more stocked and plucking players from maybe Power 5 schools like Cincinnati or Coastal was mentioned specifically in the text? Reminded me, Bill, of what college basketball has become, especially with a grad transfer or not even the grad transfer market. We've seen it time and time again. South Carolina has plucked players from where I think in Maine and Florida, one of the Florida, right? Washington. Where was Frank Booker from down in Florida? I forget. Was it
Florida Atlantic?
International? Atlantic. I get them all confused down there. We've seen it in college basketball, and it's had the opposite effect, hasn't it? Gonzaga is dominating college basketball this year, while Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina unranked for the first time since 1961. Kansas just lost its third straight game the other day. So I think it might have disrupted chemistry more in those programs, or thrown a wrinkle in that's kind of an unintended consequence. I feel like that's what's happening in college basketball. Maybe because football, you need so many bodies and so much depth, it will be a completely different dynamic. But haven't we already seen that the big-time programs, the perennial powerhouses, have become more dominant in the last several years without this transfer portal deal?
Well, it's not just the perennial powerhouses, though. I mean, South Carolina, did they not just get the nation's sack leader from Georgia State? And he maybe wants to show that he can produce at the SEC level so that he can get drafted next year, or maybe a super athletic linebacker from an FCS program in Delaware that's friends with the kid on South Carolina, so he gets an offer to come to South Carolina and come play with the big boys. I mean, it's already happening here.
Well,
or St. Francis.
Here's what you have to watch with that. In basketball, the grad transfer has been kind of a roster filler. Certainly there are programs that have been able to take advantage of it, but with the one and done rule of basketball, or the much easier path to declare and go pro, you can run into a situation there where guys declare on you that maybe you weren't prepared for, or you didn't see coming, and now you've got to fill your roster a little bit quicker. And instead of going out and recruiting a guy, it might be easier to look into the transfer portal, the grad transfer portal. Basketball, football, you're gonna have to be real careful about that, because you're gonna recruit some guys, and this is especially true. The way I read the text was the bigger programs. I was thinking he was talking about, say, like the Ohio States, the Clemsons, the Alabamas. But you're recruiting these 5-star guys. Well, they're coming with the anticipation of being able to play at least 2 years. Now, again, they're coming with the intention of staying 3 years, and they want to play 2 years, if not all 3. If you start recruiting them and promising them playing time, but then you're going and you're hitting the transfer portal and you're bringing in a guy to compete with them, that's not going to sit well. And more recruits like that are going to look and go, man, I don't know if I trust that staff when they're telling me this, but there's a history of them going out and then bringing in recruits in the transfer portal. Look at what happened with South Carolina, guys. Ryan Helinski and Colin Hill. It's a smaller level, and I'm not trying to say South Carolina's this massive program, but look at how unhappy it made the fan base when you've got Ryan Helinski, who's kind of expected to start, and then you get a scenario like this. I know, again, there's a little bit some different variables there with how Hill had a relationship with Mike Bobo, but look at how all that has now turned out.
Well, nobody cared when Colin Hill didn't come back.
No, that's
And
not what he's
nobody's
saying. He's saying it ultimately ended up in Helinski leaving the program and Colin Hill leaving the program.
Yeah.
It cleaned both of the guys out.
But people blamed that on the previous coach.
But it upset. But what happens if they'd have used that? What happens if they'd have used that? And again, this one's going to be a little bit different because there was a relationship between Colin Hill and Mike Bobo. So you assumed that it wasn't going to happen again. But let's say they go out and they bring in Jason Brown. You know, you go get another transfer quarterback. Well, on the recruiting trail, and you guys know this because you have at least followed recruiting well enough. It's a dirty business. And I can see a scenario where other coaches are going, hey, big-time four-star quarterback, if you go to South Carolina, they may go hit the transfer portal and find a guy who's more ready than you are. Now, whether that recruit wants to believe it or not is an entirely different thing. But I think the bottom line is that can be used against you. And so I don't see it being necessarily for the big-name programs something that they're going to be able to do. Maybe they take a player or two here or there, but I think you're always going to be inclined to go after the five-star hotshot freshman, let them come in and perform in the manner that they should.
I mean, quarterbacks, you're just going to have to get used to that, especially at the big programs. Like Ohio State right now has C.J. Stroud was the backup this year, right? So would be the presumed starter going into next year, I guess. Then they have another five-star, Kyle McCord, coming in next year. And then they've got Quinn Ewers, the number one quarterback in the country. So they're going to have three basically borderline five-star quarterbacks within a year of each other. They're not all going to stay. It's going to be Justin Fields at Georgia all over again. So, I mean, you're just quarterback, yeah, it's going to stink, but that's going to be by far the biggest impact of all this is that position.
I feel like there's been a half dozen college football programs that have dominated from a depth and recruiting standpoint, I feel like, for the last half dozen years or so. I think instead of helping those programs, because you can't help them much more, right? These guys are going undefeated or darn close and making the college football playoff every year. There are only so many spots you can put them in the program. I feel like this might help a program like South Carolina, like Mississippi State or Ole Miss right now, Vanderbilt in the SEC. You dangle the carrot out in front of guys. Hey, come play in the SEC. Yeah, you've already proven you can do it in the AAC or Conference USA or the Sun Belt. Come play with us, man. I think it's got to be helpful, especially when Shane Beamer's selling the opportunity to play and get up the depth chart pretty quickly because the returning depth just isn't there. I think that's where it's going to help the most in those type programs. But I certainly agree that we're about to see the sales pitch from the other programs that were mentioned in that text, like Cincinnati or Coastal Carolina, Bill, about loyalty and being unique and standing out and sticking with those programs as opposed to jumping ship, which I think would be the kind of the old school mentality of why wouldn't you improve your situation?
Now, what I will say, we talk about filling a roster, whoever the new coach at Tennessee very well could come in next year and then gobble up a bunch of these kids like we're talking about that have had really good years at lower level programs. And you can say, well, I can't necessarily, it's going to take a while. Maybe we're on sanctions. Maybe we can't get recruits like we want. Now I can go find guys who have already played in college. Yeah, I know it's at the American Conference level or the what is it, Sun Belt or something like that. But I can get those guys in. That's where you might see this again. It's going to be where teams have to fill gaps in the roster because something happened. You missed on a bunch of prospects. Guys transferred, guys left your program. I don't see that happening to the big name programs though. I think right now you look at it. You can look at the recruiting rankings. There's 8 to 10 teams that are always going to fill out that top 10, top 12. those teams should continue to roll. Maybe they take a transfer here or there. I don't think Clemson. I think Clemson took the young man. I forget his name. I saw him put up something on Twitter this week, but he went to Syracuse. He's from Hanahan, and he's transferring back to Clemson. But I don't think you're going to see Clemson in the transfer market. I don't think you're going to see, Ohio State will take a guy here or there. Last year they took Trey Sermon. I mean, Ohio State did take Trey Sermon from Oklahoma, or I say took, like they went down and picked him up and drove him back to Columbus. But the bottom line is, you see that still from time to time. I don't see those schools, though, going out and rating smaller programs like that text suggested.
Yeah, I mean, LSU's best linebacker this year was Jabril Cox, who transferred from North Dakota State. But it wasn't really a loyalty thing. He could have gotten drafted, but he said that he wanted to come and play at a high level because it would help him prepare to go to the NFL. So that when he gets to the NFL, he'll be better because he actually played against guys that are going to go and play at that level. So, I mean, for a guy at the lower level of Division I, it really does just make sense for their future if they're on an NFL trajectory. It's going to be hard to sell kids against that.
In a way, I hear what you're saying. But if it becomes the trend, like it's become the trend in college basketball, right? I mean, we've seen this happen. And I don't think it's worked out great for a lot of guys. Maybe for some, or maybe they feel like they get a good experience and it's worth making that move. We saw it here we've seen it here in Columbia. How many times has it worked out great for guys in a Gamecock uniform? I would say it really hadn't worked out. Frank Booker had a tremendous end of his senior season, but I don't know if that's exactly how we thought it was going to go.
But you're not getting basketball.
How do we gauge it? Yeah.
Basketball, you're not getting program changers that are transferring in.
If you're transferring in college basketball, you're probably not on track to go to the NBA. Because if you're not a one and done at this point, you're most likely not going to go to the NBA.
The one that was strange is Andrew, is it Nebhart, who went from Florida to Gonzaga. That was the one that you're like, I don't know. But yeah, that's the rare occasion. You're not going to. You're exactly right, Patrick. If you're good enough to transfer to another high, if you're going from one major program to another, you're probably just going to go ahead and go to the NBA.
Or the G says, "Hooray! It's working." She's talking about the YouTube comments. Good morning, guys. Love how you have the screens now. That's especially cool to see. Bill turned it around and has it on Lake Murray, so we've been seeing a little bit of a light show back there. Not everyone is pleased with that. JB says, "What are y'all doing at the lake? Muschamp having a yard sale?" I guess JB's fun account. Morning from the Shenandoah Valley, Rooster P says, via the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, says there's an ice storm up there in Virginia. Teddy D says the best thing that could happen for college football would be to reduce the overall scholarships from 85 to 78. Imagine the trickle-down effect for all the schools. I feel like we're doing the opposite right now. Bill, you said that the seniors coming back will not count against that 85 scholarship number as it pertains to Carolina football, or college football moving forward. So you're almost expanding instead of contracting. Anonymous texter hits us up with a good name, I should say. Off the top of my head, the only basketball player it's worked for is Anthony Gill. Anthony Gill coming to Carolina, playing for Darren Horn, and then transferring to Virginia. I feel like, though, that was more of a coach leaves and you leave traditional transfer out of a program with Anthony Gill. I believe that did coincide with Darren Horn leaving the program, right, Bill? I'm not misremembering that, am I?
A lot of rumors that he was going to transfer. There's a lot of rumors that there was tampering involved. I don't remember his teammate from high school or his buddy that went to Virginia, but that Virginia had been reaching out to him midway through his freshman season, and that regardless of what happened to Horn, he was going to transfer. And that's kind of what ended up happening, obviously, with Frank. I mean, let's be honest, at that time, go back 9 years ago, you're playing for Darren Horn, you have a losing season, you got Frank Martin coming in. You kind of would have thought that had been more of an enticement to stay and play for Martin as opposed to Darren Horn. But I think from what I kind of gathered, I was working with the Big Spur back then, covering basketball pretty closely. Anthony Gill's mind had been made up pretty quickly that he was going to transfer. He and DeMontre Harris.
We touched on Torian Gray, the new defensive backs coach for the Gamecocks, a little earlier on, and several of you weighing in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line about that. Hugh says, agree with Bill, Torian Gray is fantastic. And another texter mentioned that he's looking forward to the Gamecocks getting back to DBU, like he mentioned, like Torian Gray mentions in his new Twitter bio now. And someone, a Gamecock fan, immediately pointed out how many DBs have come out of South Carolina in the last several decades, really. I think it's like 24 since 2000 or something like that might be the number of defensive backs for the Gamecocks to go on to the NFL. So certainly there is a track record there, and will be interesting to see what Torian Gray does, especially having gotten the endorsement from DJ Swearinger, who he coached up in Washington for a little while in the NFL. 803-404-6100. We need to take a quick break. Patrick, you all right over there? You good? Bill, you seem to have survived the worst of the lightning on Lake Murray. You're good?
Still offended. I've only had one person tell me this morning that I looked sleepy.
Well, now the lighting has changed in your shot, and you're looking a little orange and dark from a lighting perspective. This live stream stuff is tough. Multimedia.
Is it about time to turn it back around to the other angle? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I'm sure you'll mess with it during the break. 803-404-6100. If you would like to join the show, you can call or text. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game. Patrick, when you got me for zero res, by the way? Looks like Patrick's ready for a strong traffic report.
Oh, traffic report, weather report. He's fired up.
He's geared up. Oh, yeah, he's rolling. Oh, rain at the airport. Gorgeous day out there today.
It's I was about to look at that to see what is. I know it was supposed to rain, but I thought it was like later in the day. Well, I've made it through a little bit of this coffee with the no creamer. So I would say first day is a success. Yeah, 20% this afternoon. It's supposed to be 72 today.
Woo! January, love it.
72 today, 56 tomorrow, 50 on Thursday. It does look like we're getting into the high 50s, low 60s. That's a good little stretch. See if old Levi the dog comes wandering down here shortly.
What was that again, Bill?
So we'll see if old Levi the dog comes wandering down here shortly.
Nice. How long are you planning on leaving the Christmas lights up?
Until next Christmas.
Nice. You see, Hunter's interested in your coffee, sir.
Let me get the bag.
I'm guessing you missed it, Hunter. He's been suckered into the Phil Mickelson coffee. It's on order, he said. Patrick, you just get a refill? Or you get water there?
Water.
Gotcha. Are you all up for trying the Mickelson coffee if it gets Bill's complete endorsement?
Depends on what it costs.
It was $14.95.
No, he would have to provide it for us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would definitely try it. Coffee for wellness.
There you go, Hunter. Greg says it's pouring in North Augusta now, too, man. Nasty.
Yeah, it just rumbled through here pretty good.
So we got live weather. We're forming our own weather network here this morning.
Yeah, I don't have lights outside. I need to get, if somebody's got an electrician or some suggestions, I'm open to it. But I don't have lights for the porch. So the answer is yes. I meant to respond to somebody on Twitter about that. The Christmas lights currently are now going to be spring lights, and there'll be festive summer lights, and then there'll be happy fall lights, and then there'll be Christmas lights again.
Nothing like spring lights in January. You guys seen the video, Jamal Murray, yet?
No, I didn't see the video. I just saw that.
You got to check it out.
Yeah, I like the scrolling ticker.
Thank you, Travis. Agreed. I think I put too much on it yesterday when I tried to put some scores and stuff. It gets a little cluttered for me. I need to make some more spaces in there, but we're working on it. All right, James weighing in on the YouTube, pouring up in Rocky Mount. We got the Carolinas covered here. Down to Georgia, huh?
Yeah, that looked pretty intentional from Jamal Murray.
Yeah, and it also gives me something else to do during the show. Helps
That's
my
right.
ADP, the
Yeah,
particular and the graphics. And it's fun for me. And I get to click on you guys' comments. We got to pop those up. Morning, Jason. Good to hear from you, sir. Yeah, we're happy to have the live feedback. You missed some lightning behind Bill a little earlier ago if you're just joining us.
Yeah, that was
That was fun. So, Bill, now it looks like you need a little light right beside your laptop to light up your face to give you like the same color.
You need
As
a
the rest
ring
of the-
light.
a green light.
A ring light.
Oh, yeah, just on top.
Yeah. That's the thing that everybody's got for their Zoom. It's the big round thing.
Oh, yeah? So where does it go on the laptop? Like on top?
Or it can just go on the table in front of you.
Just like
Oh.
a little lamp?
Some you can mount, and you mount things on, and some of them clip right on top of the laptop.
Right.
Some of them are big, and then, yeah.
Yeah, we're great. We'll turn this
We're back.
portion of the house into the studio.
4 minutes.
So now the intro is coming, and we're going to try to get the show audio in for you. That would be a great time to hit it, like right there. We can do that, and then go back to this during the breaks. We're working on it. KT from Lexington. If it is proven that Tennessee did pay those players, will they be eligible to play somewhere else? It's a good question. Bill, I think this is like the Cam Newton thing, right? Because, well, I guess maybe if they're McDonald's bags of cash on the campus there in Knoxville and they're picking them up and they're that dumb, I guess possibly. But how do you prove it? Where's the evidence? Unless you have a picture of a guy holding money or something ridiculous, right?
Yeah, Jeremy Pruitt just standing out after practice, handing out McDonald's bags. Of course, then he's going to be like, "What? Oh, giving them Happy Meals? I don't know.
Right.
You know, we're champions of life." The previous coach said champions of life. I wanted him to be happy. We lost 8 in a row. We need a little happiness around this facility.
So odds from your betting perspective, would you put any money? No pun intended here, but would you put any money on these guys being specifically ineligible to play a guy like Eric Gray, who Tennessee pulled out of that last Texas A&M game, didn't give any reasons for?
Remember, Tennessee is trying to prove that Jeremy Pruitt cheated so that they don't have to pay him a buyout. Like, that's kind of the crazy thing here, right? Like, Tennessee is about to – so – you're right. They've got to prove it, but it does feel like they're going to try and throw a few players under the bus here. Is that you guys have that same feeling? Like they're trying.
Yeah, and that's why. Look, you see Travis's comment there from Facebook. Does anyone really have faith in that the NCAA does anything to Tennessee? See LSU, Kansas, Miami, North Carolina, but that's the difference here. They fired a coach with cause, so they don't have to pay him basically $13 million. So they have $13 million invested in finding NCAA infractions. And then they'll self-impose some sanctions, and then it's up to the NCAA whether they agree that penalty is kind of enough from a self-imposed standpoint, and if they go on top. I think that's a huge difference, isn't it, Bill, in this situation for Tennessee?
Yeah, because Tennessee is almost serving as the investigation committee. Like they're the ones that are like out there trying to say, "Hey, yeah, we cheated." They've got to prove it. I guess, and they've got to prove it. They're not trying to prove it to the NCAA. They're trying to show it in a court of law, I guess, because Jeremy Pruitt's going to fight it too, right? Like he's
Absolutely.
not backing down.
He's already put it out there. He's got 13 million reasons to fight that thing. We'll see how good a fight we have in hour 3. Waddy says, you look a little more awake this morning, Bill. Congratulations.
Thank you, good sir.
Clear.
All right, rolling right along.
Yeah. Duke has only covered one game this year per a tweet. I see they must play Georgia Tech tonight.
You guys saw Coach K.
Yeah, we can talk about that with the kid.
Yeah. Apparently he apologized.
Yeah, he apologized. I think yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, I guess he had when the kid got back from making the trip to Louisville, he had the message waiting for him, I think.
Well, that's
thinking like, do they have landlines still in the dorms at Duke? Is that how it worked? Does he have a
it's the best thing to ever happen to that kid.
Oh, no doubt.
I mean,
absolutely.
The amount of people I saw one of his tweets went viral because Gillespie responded to him on a tweet being like, "Hey, keep your head up, kid. Like these coaches get really intense." Like, kid wasn't shaken up or anything. He was just like, "Oh."
And it's so much different too on Zoom, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to being in the room and feeling that embarrassment.
Yeah. He's so happy he's going to get a job because of that.
Right. It's having the opposite effect, I think, that it typically would have.
So, yeah, we don't need to be throwing a pity party for the kid anymore, but, like, Coach K was being a jerk, so.
No doubt. Huh. Big Kahuna just sent us the text from his scroll on his car that said, McDonald's, another great advertiser on 107.5 The Game. Talking about McDonald's bags of cash. Good stuff. Yeah, but Hope and Waddy, we hear you. No, but
I don't.
You guys aren't hearing a difference between the North Carolina basketball, like having random classes and they're not doing anything with their coach, than firing your coach because they caught him.
But again, the other thing to this is those schools were fighting the allegations. They weren't saying that it had. Tennessee is literally saying, "Yeah, we cheated. He cheated very badly."
And we're firing him because of it and not paying him.
Yeah, they are trying to defend themselves here.
And I get it. You guys have the history like us. Patrick doesn't have it. Surely this is confusing to you that Tennessee football is being compared to a perennial powerhouse, right, Patrick? And did he freeze? I think he froze. I thought he might just be ignoring me. That'd be okay, too. Yes, it was a coincidence, Big Kahuna, saying that we were talking about Jeremy Pruitt, but that was on his radio. And now I'm talking to someone who's not actually on the live stream, clearly having lost my mind.
It's a raining outside.
Raining? Yeah, the lightning definitely settled down pretty quick.
Huh?
Yeah, the lightning settled down pretty quick. That was a good little show for a while, though.
That thing passed through hard. There's now some, with the temperature, starting to be some fog come up off of the lake, which will be fun to watch.
Nice. Yeah. You should just leave this as your view for sure, man.
Just need to get a light. I've got a lamp upstairs that would probably stick up over the back of it. I've got lights, recessed lights here, but I guess I don't know why it's orange.
Why don't you kill those and see what happens to your lighting? See what the computer does. I bet it changes inside. Now it just made you dark. Still reading it all from back there. And then it lights you up. Yeah,
I like this better.
Then you're a witness protection program this way.
I was just talking a different. I am actually the bag man for Tennessee. I have all the knowledge.
That'd be awesome if you wore a Ronald McDonald wig. I don't know where Travis is coming from exactly. Yeah, that LSU bowl ban last year was a joke, wasn't it? You're saying, I think he's saying that that's what Tennessee's going to do. No, they got to give themselves some scholarship reductions and the whole thing. All right, Patrick's back.
Hey, Patrick's back.
So I notice it spaces us according to when I add it to the stream. So it looks like the 2 hole is up top right, 1 hole is top left, and then number 3 hole's bottom. You get the bottom to yourself right now, Patrick.
Okay, that makes sense because I was on the top right earlier.
I was asking you when you got frozen. It's got to be confusing to you to hear people talk about Tennessee and compare them to like North Carolina basketball and perennial powerhouse programs, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, where would you put Tennessee in the SEC, 1 through 14 in your lifetime?
In my lifetime, probably 10.
Wow, that's amazing.
They're behind South Carolina in my lifetime.
You've seen Kentucky have more success than Tennessee, haven't you? Is that fair?
In my whole lifetime.
Wow,
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, like, if we count, I mean, I was alive for Peyton Manning, but I don't remember him playing at Tennessee.
Whoa. Check out this latest text. That is the most interesting take I've heard on the Tennessee situation.
John?
Mm-hmm.
That's too much for me.
Too much for you, is that what you said? Yeah. Too many words? You just stop reading?
Just too complicated. When we start talking about taxes, I'd check out.
Classic.
We need more people to subscribe to the YouTube. If you're watching the YouTube, we need you to subscribe. We need to get that number to 1,000, and we've gotten up to 44 in a day.
All right.
It's going to take a while at this rate.
Well, let's see some social media promotion from that @ Patrick Perrette page on Twitter, man.
I did yesterday.
Did you?
Did you ask people to subscribe?
Yeah.
Not a boy. You're doing that podcasting thing. 21st century deal.
Yeah.
Oh, apparently there's going to be cinnamon in this coffee and Himalayan pink salt.
Apparently?
Said cinnamon supports joint health with powerful.
Oh, and Nicholson's coffee you're talking about?
Yeah.
The secret mix.
Cinnamon is so much more than a delicious spice. It's loaded with antioxidants that can help to reduce inflammation and support healthy joints.
Edmund, not quite sure what that means. Oh, yes, is what he hit us up with. Okay.
Yeah, he's agreeing. Cinnamon.
Oh, yes.
Perfect Strangers.
Intro is rolling there. Oh, Perfect Strangers. Fantastic.
Sitcom references coming up as well. Didn't know who Earth, Wind, and Fire was.
Just the Perfect Strangers. I got that one down cold.
Bosom buddies. On to the next segment. Maybe we'll talk about sports as well.
For better or worse, it's the early game with Tim and Bill on 107.5 The Game.
Just raising our spirits on a day where the weather tries to bring us down. Thank you, Perfect Strangers theme song. Welcome into hour number 3. Hope your Tuesday morning's off to a good start. If you were watching any kind of Sports Center highlights, checking out that NBA game last night where it was Bill Doncic versus Jokic. It turned out to be Jamal Murray getting an early exit for the Denver Nuggets, who were playing without former Gamecock P.J. Dozier because of an injury. Nuggets ended up winning that game by 4, and Murray ejected with the cheap shot. I was wondering, like, that makes me think of just famed cheap shot. This was a low blow cheap shot. The Christian Laettner stomping on a dude's chest back in the day, and it's Duke days, is probably the one that really sticks out in my mind. Is like the cheapest of cheap shots. Bill, what sticks out in you? What's the first thing that pops up in your head thinking about cheap shots in sports?
The montage of Chris Paul just trying to stop other NBA players from having kids.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah,
I mean, I think it started at Wake Forest. I think
thing.
initially he did it at Wake Forest. Patrick, does that seem right?
Seems right. I don't remember him doing it at Wake Forest, but
Google Chris Paul. I don't know what
he's
I'm
a
allowed
serial.
to say.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, he takes it upon himself to slow down the reproduction of children in the NBA.
What about you, Patrick? Cheap shots in sports. What pops in the head first?
Well, I don't know what I mean. Ndamukong Suh stomping on people definitely is up there.
Okay.
Was it Sue? Who was the quarterback, or what was the player? Was it Sue? I know it was a Buccaneer a few years ago. An interception was thrown, and he laid out, I think, an offensive lineman.
I don't know, but he stomped on Aaron Rodgers and one of the Packers' offensive linemen. Him and Aaron Rodgers have a long-standing beef.
Yeah.
And Sue getting the better of him for sure this past weekend. Or at least
Zidane, remember when Zidane headbutted that dude in the World Cup? That was crazy too.
Okay. Feel free to hit us up with what stands out for you. I think that's a weird thing, right? It's kind of, I don't know why I don't know why that Christian Laettner stomping on a dude. I think it was Kentucky back in the famous game where he ends up making the shot later on. Ben Boulware, obviously Hot Sauce Ross. I was going to bring him up for Gamecock fans. That makes sense. Luis Suarez biting people on the pitch. Raphael says, Mike Tyson one.
What was the Ben Boulware one?
Is where Harry T came in right after that. What's that?
What was the Ben Boulware one?
What?
Goosed him.
I was thinking.
Yeah, went goosing.
Wait, I thought that was Christian Wilkins.
Yeah, him too, I think. But I think it was
Boulware. I thought Boulware just said it was cool. Like, that's what we do in the locker room.
Well, after there's video evidence of him too.
Violated that poor Ohio State.
Yeah, I think his was the most famous one, right? That called attention to it, and then video evidence popped up like, oh, this is actually a bit of a trend. This is what they do.
I didn't know Boulware actually did. I just remember him basically getting the locker room saying like, yeah, boys will be boys, essentially.
How about anonymous texter? This is random because this wasn't a cheap shot in my opinion. I think it was Antonio Brown, wasn't it? Spencer Lanning getting kicked in the face on a punt return.
Yeah.
That was just Antonio Brown going up in the air and Lanning's.
Oh, he did. No, I mean, if you watch it, he led with his foot and kicked him in the face. Like, extended his leg to kick him in the face.
You can't tell me that it ran through Antonio Brown's head to say, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump up and kick this dude in the face.
I was going to say,
I don't think it was the plan from the beginning, but if you watch it, he literally, karate kicked him.
He just reacted.
But that's how you hurdle somebody, don't you? I mean,
exactly.
You put up initially, you don't
It was a running crane kick.
A running crane kick. It's so ridiculous.
Cobra Kai before there was Cobra Kai. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes. He did.
Matt going in with the Clemson cheap shots back in the day or several years ago. York says the kid from Duke a few years ago. So he's just going with the trips from why is Grayson Allen's name? Didn't come to me right away. Albert Hainsworth has popped up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line from anonymous texter.
Step on a guy's head.
Warren Sapp for the Bucks hitting a Packers lineman after an interception.
It was Warren Sapp, not Sue. Yeah, that was
very close. Another vote for Antonio Brown kicking Spencer Lanning in the face mask. Another Grayson Allen vote. This one, it says just from Duke and the Grizzlies. Will from Sumter hits us up, tripping everybody that gets by him. It's interesting. Will from Columbia also weighing in with Grayson Allen. And Jordan hits us up with Grayson Allen as well. So he's sticking out most recently as the cheap shot artist. Bobby Hurley at Duke, Keith and Camden. I think I need an example. I think you're just thinking of somebody you didn't like. I don't remember any cheap shot from him, from Bobby Hurley back in the day. And then Ken also weighing in with the Clemson punches, or the Clemson issues. I said punches because Teddy D hit us up with Woody Hayes punching a Clemson player from back in the day. At Tim Hill 1075, or you can hit me up on Twitter at Will Gunter is where Bill is. That's where Chris hit us up and says the The Hainsworth Stomp is the one that I always think of as the ultimate cheap shot. And Zidane's Headbutt. Soccer one's popping up. Another one for Mike Tyson biting Evander Holyfield's ear. Keep them coming. It's interesting to me to see those cheap shots. We got them rolling in on the live stream as well. We're up and rolling on YouTube and Facebook. If you want to find us on there, just search for 107.5 The Game. Patrick, during the off-air segment of our live stream, mentioned just pleading, begging and pleading for subscribers to the YouTube channel specifically. I think is where you can do that. I think that's how this thing works. If you subscribe, then it'll come to you. You don't have to go searching for it every day. Craig says Johnny sweeping the leg was a cheap shot back in the day. Yes, no doubt. With strike first, strike hard, no mercy. Waddy adds. Apparently we're going Karate Kid themed here as we start hour number 3 on your Tuesday morning, where we've gotten some live lightning strikes behind Bill as he's showing us the Lake Murray backdrop out of you calling that the sunroom? What are you calling that room?
Yeah, sunroom. It's fun. We go with that. I got
Living room extended.
Yeah, I'm not real sure. It's connected. I don't know. Sunroom. Sunroom seems like a good, as good as we're gonna go with. Go with that.
All right. Weren't you bragging about how awake you were and chipper? It sounds like you just took a nap.
Stretch it, man. Sit down for 2.5 hours. And I'm really debating this. Like I realize, like Jimmy says, take the Christmas lights down. But the problem, I don't have good lighting out on the porch, and they're multicolored. They're green and red. Green and red. They're fully functional for all year. They work all year long. I might even do it next break. Go see if I can cut them on here, just so we can get a little color added.
Looking at more of these cheap shots coming in via the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. The SEC ref tackling Steven Garcia against LSU. Jason says, do you remember that guy's name? I think you can do it multiple choice. You remember his name? The SEC ref on the top of your head, Bill?
No, it wasn't. No, Ron Cherry's the one that was famous for calling the penalty where they were giving him the business. That was Ron Cherry, right?
Correct. Ref Steven Garcia. Wilbur Hackett Jr. You can all stop yelling at your radios and stop sending it in via text. My apologies for bringing that up. I thought Bill would nail that one, but he's dealing with a stretching issue here in hour number 3. Apparently the only one who's been sitting and doing the radio show. What are you doing now? No, he's walking around over there.
Battery's going, man. This is battery's going dead in the computer. So I started plugging in.
James says, who was the Gator player with the eye pokes? You guys, you got anything?
I think that was Brandon Spikes.
Oh, okay. I think you're right.
Was throwing a shoe a cheap shot or just a bad move?
No, just the dumbest move of all time. KT's got a great one. And why do maybe because LeGarrette Blount became a pretty good NFL player and get the punch that LeGarrette Blount back in the day, that was a Boise State player, right? And LeGarrette Blount was at Oregon at the time. And, man, you talk about cheap shots. That's a great one. And for some reason, it doesn't stick out in my mind.
Trent Williams did that to Richard Sherman after a playoff game in 2012 as well. It was pretty sweet. Look it up. Trent Williams walked up to him after the game, and Richard Sherman just immediately got him in his face. And he said, "What are you going to do?" And Trent Williams said, "I'm going to punch you in your face." And he said, "Do it then." And Trent Williams punched him in the face.
Who was the Steelers player, the Saints player? Who is it that went around punching people this year?
Well, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson just kept getting people to punch him.
Okay.
He got punched by Michael Thomas, Anthony Miller, and Javon Wims. Got punched by 3 people in 1 year.
Wims was the really cheap shot that I remember that sticks out for me.
Yeah, because he squared up to him and tried to box him, basically. It was bizarre.
Forrest goes old school Gamecocks and Tom Rybach punching Lefty Drizel in the basketball game back in the day. Or is it John Rybach? Sorry for my Gamecock basketball history. Yeah, sorry. I thought I screwed that up. My apologies on that one. Malcolm goes awfully serious with Tanya Harding. I guess that was a cheap shot. What was the name of it? Yeah, who actually did it? It was, I know the name. People are just yelling now. I got to say the other ones, Nancy Kerrigan, Tanya Harding, and Jeff Galooly, right?
Yeah, there you go. Good movie with Margot Robbie playing Tanya Harding, by the way, if anybody hasn't seen that.
Really?
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun movie. It's called I, Tanya.
Oh, Margot Robbie, huh? All right.
Yeah.
more of you going with the Christian Wilkins or Ben Boulware theme. Yeah, James and Sumter also remembering that Christian Leitner stomp against Kentucky stands out in my mind. Any hit Tom Wilson's ever made, Patrick, that's in your wheelhouse from James.
Yeah, it's capital. He just plays the game hard. James is probably a Penguins fan.
Mm-hmm. RJ, Dennis Rodman against the cameraman. You guys remember that one?
Yeah.
That was so weird.
Unfair.
That was kind of like this Jamal Murray one as well last night. If you haven't seen that thing, I encourage you to go check it out. It was just such a 4-year-old move. And for a guy that's such a good player, I don't get that ever entering your brain, but I guess maybe it's just an instinct thing and you're just ticked off.
What I don't ever get entering your brain is what Ronnie said, which may be the most jaw-dropping thing I've ever seen on a sporting field, was Myles Garrett using Mason Rudolph's helmet as a weapon against him.
Right.
It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. It's amazing that we've never seen it before because it seemed I nailed it. James is a Penguins fan.
This one's a good one too. That does it's back in my memory too. The most egregious was Jim McMahon getting picked up by the Packers lineman and body slammed on his head 10 seconds after the play was completed. If you don't remember it, look it up. It's pretty bad. Patrick, check that one out. Just look up Jim McMahon body slam, maybe on YouTube.
Right.
I'm sure you haven't seen it. I think that was right around. I think it might have been that '86 Super Bowl season for McMahon and that Super Bowl shuffle and the whole deal.
Like Charles Martin.
That just shows you how things have changed in football for sure, where now you can't even block the quarterback unless he's part of the play after an interception like that. Did you see it, Patrick?
Yeah, I'm saying it right now.
Not impressed.
It was like it was brutal. It's like reminds me of the Joe Burrow one against UCF. Or those Coastal players bullying Zach Wilson.
The Coastal one is brutal.
No need for that.
803-404-6100. Appreciate all the participation on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line this morning, and all the viewers on the live stream are up and rolling on both YouTube and Facebook, like I mentioned a little bit earlier. Vontez Burfict is all Waddy had to say, and there are plenty of those examples. I guess you have to narrow it down when it comes to Burfict and cheap shots, but at least those are like attempting to be relatively legitimate hits in a game as opposed to just random extracurricular activities like the Jamal Murray shot, the Leitner stomp, and things that just I don't understand how you even like Kermit Washington punching Rudy Tomjanovich back in the day. Well, that was one of the most famous ones, but it was a fight basically. So I get that. It's these cheap shots that it's hard for me to understand.
Cash Daniel from Kentucky also did a high gouge a couple years ago too. Yeah.
Yep.
You're just basically naming any cheap shot over the last 30 years. I feel like now
at this point,
any cheap shot you remember from at any point.
Everybody's got a good one.
I mean, surprisingly, nobody's brought up Woody Hayes just yet. I feel like that's.
Nope, it's already been brought up. You just missed it.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yep, it was texted in. Stewart. Good news for you, Bill. Stewart hits us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Says, "Tell Bill I'll come wire him a set of outdoor lights." There you go.
Well, all right. Giddy up.
Done. Ray goes with the old malice at the palace. The guy throwing the beer at Ron Artest. Fair enough. That's a famous one. Bill Romanowski hitting Kerry Collins back in 1997. Anonymous texter hits us up. I think that was a pretty cheap shot. I brought this up because I think it's so crazy what sticks out in our minds for whatever reasons. And I have no idea why. How about, don't forget that the ladies are ruthless too, Ethan says. Brittany Griner punches the Texas Tech player and broke her nose. All right. For some reason, I remember like a New Mexico State soccer player or something that got in trouble for going nuts in a soccer game and taking some serious
there's
shots.
a highlight video of the one girl that her name's Elizabeth Lambert from New Mexico.
There you go.
She's just look up nasty. The video is nasty soccer Elizabeth Lambert to the tune of let the bodies hit the floor, and she's just punching people in the back, ripping them down by their ponytails, like chopping at their ankles. Like it's crazy.
That was, all right. I got the one that takes the cake is the female. I think it was college. The catcher. You know what I'm talking about? Where the girl rounds third and comes up. There's not even a play at the plate. Google it. There's not even a play at the plate. The girl some poor girl's just crossing home plate, and the catcher just like elbows her. The catcher's watch it. Patrick, see if you can find it.
I'll see if I can find it.
I like the description.
Did you find it?
No, I mean I'll have to find it.
Yeah.
Sounds like an obscure search. Softball catcher.
Yeah, that's my ace of spades right there on cheap shots. I'll see if I can find it and get it to you guys here in a minute.
Whoa!
All right, when we
I might have
got it, Patrick.
I might have found it. Yeah, I found it. Where she just elbows her.
Yeah,
Yeah, I found it.
drops her.
Sounds like he's not
Needville.
impressed.
It's in Needville. Looks like Texas. Texas high school softball. Ooh.
So we're starting hour 3 with cheap shots. Would love to evolve the conversation maybe a little bit as we continue to roll on. When we come back, we'll get into I think it's an odd hire, or maybe a telling hire is the better way to put it, for LSU for their new defensive coordinator situation, and then get into the Tennessee head coaching search in SEC football talk, and who knows where that'll end up. 803-404-6100. Again, if you would like to join, you can call or text. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
Winning the game 6-4.
What is your answer?
But all of the
Zero res here, Patrick?
catcher, don't let her emotions get the best of her. During a 5-1 victory
Yeah.
to turn the game around.
I wanted to tell you about Zero Res. Luckily, last night, we decided, oh man, the kids talked me into chocolate ice cream for dessert. Fortunately, none of that got on the carpet. It's just a matter of time until it does at my house, especially 7-year-old, 5-year-old, and one that is not quite one trying to walk, and it is a mess at my house. Fortunately, we've had some help. Zero Res Carpet and Rug Cleaning's come out to my house a couple of times, done a great job cleaning my carpets, cleaned an area rug for us in the living room, the tiles, freshened up the tiles in both the bathroom and kitchen for us, and impressed my wife with their results. Impressed me because I had nothing to worry about when it came to the Zero Res cleaning process. They have a patented powered water process, no harsh chemicals involved, nothing for us to worry about when it comes to our kids being on the surfaces soon after they're clean. Also, there's no leftover soapy residue. That's why our carpets have stayed cleaner longer. Yours can as well, whether it's your home or maybe you're in charge of a business. The commercial cleaning division at Zero Res also working day and night, making sure businesses all over the Midlands clean and sanitized and following all the CDC guidelines in the process. Right now, they have a great deal for you as well. If you mention me, Tim Hill, you'll get 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $109. Schedule your Zero Res cleaning today. Check them out online, ZeroResColumbia.com. Give them a call at 803-262-4020. It's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
All right, Stuart, if you're listening via the live stream, I'm willing to swing a deal here. I'm willing to negotiate.
Wow, I didn't see that one, Travis. I want to roll to the bathroom real quick. Let's see
Wait,
if
you can't leave. I get yelled at every time I leave.
if I take off the. You guys can check out the back there. Have fun.
Yeah, I'm all about doing a little trade out here, working something out. We'll figure something out. I don't know if Patrick's on the. Oh, there you go. Yeah, you let me know. I do need lights out there. I want to do you see where the grill is over there? I've got a little bit of space right there. I want to actually have like a grill area built. I need to redo the deck. I really need to redo the whole outside. I got a few other things around here I'm trying to do. I really need to have a few things rewired in here. I think this week, the 29th, I'll have been here 7 months. Yeah, we can figure something out. Patrick, we only got one other break this hour. One other break? No?
Yeah, one other break.
Okay.
So what was that, Patrick? You're able to combine? We're good?
Yeah, we're good.
Nice. Bill's getting his house all wired up. Brilliant.
Live stream is totally worth it.
I could use a TV.
You could use a TV.
Yeah.
Man. All right, trying to go back through all of these. So I just whiffed on John Rybach, huh? Totally.
Oh, it started to rain hard again.
Don't remember that one. So Ray's on the line, Patrick?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Trying to check these texts. There are a bunch of them.
Yeah, we got a call suggesting Jack. We're coming back. Jack Tatum paralyzing Derek Stingley's grandfather. That did happen. I looked at the video. There.
The Carolina football team at the bottom of the hill in Clemson in 2004 mentioned as cheap shots. Again, not a cheap shot. Just asking cheap shots in sports. Maybe that was just a Clemson fan that wanted to get in a cheap shot on the show. 803-404-6100 if you would like to join. Mentioned we're going to move the conversation to college football. And the hire that LSU made at defensive coordinator was very surprising to me because it's not a name. It's a guy who was coaching the defensive backs for the Minnesota Vikings. Durante Jones is his name. Relatively young guy, 41 years old. Hasn't been a big-time coordinator before, but has worked with Dave Aranda. That's why he's getting hired. Didn't work with Dave Aranda at LSU, actually worked with him at Wisconsin, but clearly I'm sure has been endorsed by the former LSU defensive coordinator who now is the Baylor head coach. And Patrick, you mentioned that Bo Pelini, who obviously was a big-name coach and clearly didn't work out defensive coordinator last year for LSU. We've seen Matt Canada be a big-time offensive coordinator not working out at LSU before. So I'm not saying it's a bad hire. I'm just saying it is surprising to me that there is not a larger name attached to this job or a hot name, I feel like, in college football like Marcus Freeman was as the Cincinnati defensive coordinator who took the Notre Dame job, even though LSU was interested. It's interesting to me, and I feel like it does change my perception slightly about what Shane Beamer's doing with his South Carolina coaching staff. And maybe it's a bit of a trend, or maybe it's just where we're at here in 2021 with some of these specific openings and the specific circumstance of Will Muschamp leaving and Shane Beamer taking over, but will be wildly interesting to see how Durante Jones does at LSU, because I feel like maybe Dabo Swinney kind of set the mold with Chad Morris coming in and taking his offense to another level, and then Brent Venables coming in, I think it was a couple of years later, and clearly taking the defense and the program to another level, where those coordinators have been wildly important. And we saw Tony Elliott not coaching in the college football playoff and how much of a negative effect we all think it had on their offense and lack of performance and execution, and Ohio State taking advantage and the whole thing. But the coordinators for Ed Orgeron, I think a very similar type of situation there, where We saw when Joe Brady came in, they were really, really good. We saw when Joe Brady left this past year, they weren't good. Dave Aranda left, they weren't good. And Durante Jones has to be good, I think, for LSU to be good. And that's why I was a little surprised that you get an unproven coordinator in there for Ed Orgeron when it's so important for him to perform. Patrick, you mentioned a little earlier in the show, you think if LSU goes even 8-4, that a guy who just won the national championship, it would be 2 years ago, it's only 390 days ago or something like that, would be out at LSU because of the bad year they had this year and then the tremendous expectations that they have down there.
Yeah, and just because of what those 4 losses would mean, it would mean at least you lost 2 in a row. I mean, maybe you lose 2 in a row to Arkansas. That will never be acceptable in LSU. They're just too talented. I mean, Miles Brennan will be back, and they did play well with Miles Brennan. The defense is going to be stacked. So Durante Jones is coming into as good of a situation as you could possibly ask for with 2 All-Americans at corner, 3 just freak shows at pass rusher. I mean, at the very least, and two returners at linebacker too. I mean, they're going to return the majority of this defense, and they're going to have first-round picks all over the place. So there's really no reason you can't be successful, especially if he's going to come back and just run what Dave Aranda was doing 2 years ago, so the players will be comfortable with it. At the very least, Stingley will have run that, and a couple other defensive linemen that are upperclassmen have run that defense before, so they'll know what to do, and they'll be more comfortable with it. Yeah. Next year, when you're 3 of your swing games, I mean, Carolina's swing games are always, we talk about Tennessee, Missouri, Kentucky. At LSU, it's Auburn, Florida, A&M. Those are usually their 3 big swing games that could go either way, and all 3 of them are in Baton Rouge next year. Yeah, they're going to have to do – they're going to have to win at least 9 games.
Where's the LSU game? The UCLA game at?
It's in the Rose Bowl.
Not that I think – I mean, I would imagine LSU goes out there as a touchdown favorite, if not not a little bit more. But you look at
this point, I think we still have to say scheduled for the Rose Bowl. We saw the actual Rose Bowl having to be moved this past college football.
Well, let's all be joyful for the next 29 minutes, and let's say it's going to happen. But I Chip Kelly, that thing's got to get going out there at some point. I think he's got Dorian Thompson-Robinson back, or Dorian Robinson-Thompson with DTR.
DTR.
But I think he's got him back. And again, you just wonder if Chip Kelly's going to get that thing going. He hadn't recruited great, but new defensive scheme going out west. That's an interesting game on opening. I think it's opening weekend. Do you have it right in front of you?
It is opening weekend, yeah.
Okay, so I mean that's something certainly that you keep an eye on, because you're right. Those 3 in the SEC are big games. Those are certainly big games, but you don't want to lose that opener against UCLA.
So I mentioned this changes my perception of Shane Beamer a little bit and the Gamecock coaching staff. What about as it pertains now to the Tennessee head coaching search? Is Tennessee going to be able to go to we all remember the last coaching search and what a cluster it ended up being with the specific Greg Schiano situation. And then I feel like they went way down on their list, settled for Jeremy Pruitt. Obviously, that didn't work out. That can't happen again at Tennessee, can it? Or in 2021, is that just what the SEC climate is right now, even for a pretty highly coveted job like the Tennessee head coaching position? Bill, what do you think? I know you got distracted by Jan, I'm guessing, saying that, please tell me those aren't Christmas lights outside your door. Taking a shot. Is it a short thing as to why they're still up?
Explaining. They are Christmas lights. They're staying up all year. Don't worry about my life. Don't worry about my life. There's an article. I don't have a subscription to The Athletic right now. I know you do. And I can't remember who wrote it yesterday, but I saw an article on The Athletic talking about the last 10 years of Tennessee football and just all the things that have happened. I don't know many athletic directors. I guess I knew Danny White, or at least familiar with his name because of some things at Central Florida. So you feel like it was a really good hire. You feel like that's a big step towards stability in Knoxville. Now the question is, who can he get to come in and be the head coach? Tennessee, for a lot of our listeners, and Tim, you and I, Tennessee's a powerhouse. I mean, I go back, South Carolina coming into the SEC in 1992 and beating Tennessee. At that time, I was 11. I didn't, or I was 10 actually. I didn't know what it meant, but I remember the celebration of my father and everybody back at the tailgate was like, all right, we beat Tennessee. That's nice. And those, those people back on that Halloween day were going crazy. And then I learned quickly what it was like when I didn't see South Carolina beat Tennessee for another 14 years, I believe, or 13 years. And we watched Tennessee win a national championship and Peyton Manning dominate and T. Martin come into Columbia and set records. And then whoever the quarterbacks were in the early 2000s that were always converting third and about 97 against Lou Holtz. And you saw a great Tennessee program. And then think about the coaches we've seen in Knoxville over the last few years. Derek Dooley and Butch Jones, obviously Jeremy Pruitt. Man, the fall of that program, but I still view them as a really good program. But are they going to be able to go out and hire a big-time coach, or are they looking at going after an assistant? It's going to be an interesting situation, and it's in most years you would say this is really, really, really late to be going into the coaching search market. Colorado or Michigan State did this last year. I think it was after signing day, if I remember correctly. It was after signing day where they went out and they couldn't find anybody, and they ended up with Mel Tucker from Colorado. So kind of interesting to see how it's going to play out for the Vols and who exactly they can land.
So, Patrick, if you had to put money on it right now, big time name or a bit of an under the radar hire at Tennessee?
Under the radar hire. I don't think any of the big names will want to go there. I mean, at least if I was in that position. I
Give
think
me an
it'll be
example.
of an under the radar coach
Yep.
or a big name coach that won't want to go there.
No, both if you want, but I was thinking of who you're going with, who you think Tennessee will end up with as head coach.
How about Lance Leipold?
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo guy?
Yeah, that will be under the radar. A guy that's been successful multiple levels. I think it's going to have to be someone that's going to be just confident enough in their brain and their scheme. I mean, I could see Jimmy Chadwell taking the job because he runs that really unique sort of triple option type deal that he's just going to be confident and say, look, I don't care if I'm not going to have the same tools as everybody else for the next couple of years if we lose scholarships or whatever it may be. I think my scheme is strong enough that I can outmaneuver, I guess, teams that are overpowering me in terms of talent. I don't think it's going to be Tony Elliott.
Is there a reason? Are you just throwing Lance Leipold, or you're knowledgeable about the connection he has with Danny White?
Did Danny White hire him at Buffalo or something?
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
okay.
right.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of the connection of Bob Caslin and Jeff Monken and how that went down. I don't think it's going to be him because I don't think Danny White – I think Danny White knows he can't sell that to the fans. I think you can sell a Tennessee guy that just got named National Coach of the Year and Jamie Chadwell to the fan base a lot better than you can sell the guy from Buffalo who's had been a solid coach, no doubt. Certainly, I think would be a solid hire. But if you paid any kind of attention to what Danny White was saying yesterday about polishing the brand at Tennessee, you can't do that and then bring in a guy from Buffalo. You can't do that and bring in Bill Clark from UAB, I don't think, even though I think he's a really good coach and would probably do a solid job there. I think you have to Tony Elliott, I think, would be a name right now. We don't consider him an under-the-radar guy, right? I think I consider him as one of the most highly coveted college football coaches out there. The article I was reading yesterday on The Athletic, I think that you're talking about, Bill, was that Elliott actually, South Carolina wanted to talk to Elliott, and he declined because of the rivalry there and all involved. I think Elliott's a big-time name. I think, obviously, Hugh Freeze is a big-time name that we all don't feel like is going to work out because the SEC just is seemingly not going to let him come back into the league and be a head coach. But it does feel to me that they're going to have to go down the list a little bit right now. And Chadwell checks off a lot of boxes to me. I think would be a solid hire right now for the position that Danny White and Tennessee find themselves in. I think it's crazy to say that it would be interesting to see if Jamie Chadwell feels like it's the best spot for him. what a meteoric rise he's made in the college football coaching world recently. What do you guys, Bill, you think Chadwell is a legit candidate there or no?
I don't know because you're not getting a lot
Still
of
on the Bill O'Brien train?
No, but you're not getting a lot of. Danny White's doing a good job of keeping it kind of quiet. I mean, you can go look and they've got their big board. You can go to Go Balls 247, and they've got their big board up and who they think and everything. But I don't know what Danny White is necessarily trying to do right now. I just haven't heard. I haven't heard of Jamie Chadwell is interviewed. I would think that Billy Napier and Jamie Chadwell would be at the top of the list for this job. If they can't, it would be kind of like, to me, it's very similar to South Carolina. I think the Tennessee job and the South Carolina job are very, very similar right now. The difference is Tennessee's got these possible restrictions coming and what may happen. But if you look at the two jobs, you look at the facilities, you look at the pay, you look at the place in the East, the difference between Tennessee and South Carolina is there is tradition at Tennessee. There's a lot of tradition at Tennessee, and that helps them, I think, having seen that they've won there before. So with all that being said, that's a huge difference. But to me, they're very similar jobs. I don't know if y'all agree with that. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, Tennessee's a much better job," but you don't have a great recruiting footprint. You've got to go into Georgia, you got to go into North Carolina, you got to come into South Carolina. The state of Tennessee has done better about producing prospects in the last few years, but I think they're very similar jobs. So what was rumored on Twitter yesterday about going after Matt Campbell, about going after James Franklin, going after the huge fish out there, but then not succeeding, then you fall back to the up and comers, the Napiers, the Chadwells. I don't know who else is out there that would, can you convince a Luke Fickell that maybe Tennessee's a good job? I'm like you. Given that they're about to be in some serious trouble, I don't see Hugh Freeze being an option, but who knows? But I would think that that's where they're going to go. Can you convince? Are they trying to convince Luke Fickell right now to take the job?
They could all look at it a different way, right? I mean, it kind of comes down to how confident the coach is in himself, I feel like, because you can look at the job and say, yeah, that is not a good job. I'm just going to sit around and wait for something that's more ready-made for success. Or you can be just uber confident and say, hey, if I am the one to finally turn this thing at Tennessee around, can you imagine how high my stock will be or how much of a legend I'll be for turning that dumpster fire around? I think every coach is going to be up for a different set of challenges. And right now, Billy Napier seems like a guy that's saying, I'm going to wait for the perfect job so that whenever I do decide to take my big Power 5 job, it's going to be something I'll slide right in and I'll start winning right away. I'll win 10 games my first season, and not everybody's going to be able to do that.
I feel like Tony Elliott is doing that too.
And he should, I feel like, because that's what I would do. But not a lot of these coaches just have huge egos and they say, I can win anywhere. It doesn't matter. So I think it's going to have to take somebody of that mentality.
I think Napier's more proven than Chadwell. And so I feel like Chadwell is not in a position to turn Tennessee down.
Agreed.
That's me.
Well, we're talking about a guy who just a few years ago was down at Charleston Southern, right? And North Greenville before that. And from East Tennessee, I mean, that seems like it would be a dream job. Chadwell should take it while he's hot, Newberry Chris says on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, with a good bit of guaranteed money. And you're going to get that. And that's where it would be ridiculous to turn Tennessee down right now from Jamie Chadwell's perspective, I would think. Maybe he knows stuff that we don't. Maybe if you have the conversation behind closed doors and say, no, all right, here's the results of our internal investigation that you need to know about before you take this job. And here's our plan for self-imposed sanctions. What do you think? Maybe that changes everything. We don't know the extent of that. We do know, though, that Tennessee is in a different position. Tennessee football is in a much different position than some other high-profile programs have been in the past that have had NCAA issues and have fought those and have won. Like several of you have brought up earlier today, North Carolina basketball kind of being the most infamous, I feel like. They have, Tennessee, 13 million reasons, basically, to tell everybody exactly how Jeremy Pruitt broke the rules so they don't have to pay him that $13 million and then have to kind of suffer the consequences accordingly. We need to hit a quick break here, our final break of the program. 803-404-6100. Again, the number if you would like to weigh in. You can join us on the live streams, YouTube and Facebook. It's the early game. It's 107.5 again. And Bill has disappeared. So, Anonymous Raj, I am going coffee, water. Tried to keep the balance there. Probably gone a little bit too much coffee this morning. That was for that one. And I'm definitely weird, that's for sure. Patrick, do you do the coffee and water thing in the morning as well?
When I'm home and my coffee pot's right there, I just drink a whole pot of coffee.
Wow. And it doesn't. See,
And
if I just do that without drinking water, I am off kilter for sure.
I have no problem falling asleep right after the show after I drink a whole pot of coffee.
Wow. Strong.
Are you sure it's caffeinated coffee?
Yeah. Because my heart starts racing by the end of it.
Oh, really?
So I lay down.
When we were going to the studio, when we used to come to the studio, I would always get a bottle of water and drink it on the way to the studio. That was the first thing, and then I'd have the coffee for when we got there. I've done a very, very poor job of that being at home the last few months. I always read it's always healthy to drink cold water in the morning. It's supposed to get your metabolism started.
Right. Waddy's with you there. Waddy, my apologies for thinking that you were a female yesterday, I believe. Or maybe forever. Just never heard the name Waddy. Can you tell us where it comes from? I would like to know that. What was I going to say? Oh, Bill, you get Stewart's number on the text line there? He's ready to wire you up, man.
Yeah. I actually already texted him. I'm waiting to hear back.
Strong.
Man, what?
I do have. I mean, I have some electrical things. I don't know if you saw in that last segment. Did y'all see a light flashing? Did you see kind of where you the light above me that I had turned on was like flickering kind of, and the wiring here is I need to have an electrician come in and look at some of the wiring in this place.
I need somebody to come in and look at my tape for this towel. Made it almost the whole show again.
So I was looking at Tennessee's what Go Vols posted. Not a whole lot of information. Basically, they say that James Franklin has said no, that Sonny Dykes' name at SMU has popped up.
Ooh.
But they don't expect that a direction that they're going to go in. Tony Elliott, haven't heard anything to suggest he's off the list.
And I would think they would be ticked, Tennessee fans, if Sonny Dykes gets the job.
It does. It says that a bunch of interviews happened. I do like this. They tracked a plane yesterday. So the university plane basically went to Charlotte and Atlanta. And then there was a plane that went from Knoxville to Pennsylvania, but it belonged to Clayton Homes and was traveling on company business.
Whew. Yeah, I'm with Donnie here. Because I know it'd be a great payday, but that job, the fans, the pressure, whew, is it worth it? I'm with you.
Waddy being short for Watson sounds like a big hockey or lacrosse thing. That's what everybody calls.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, like you would be Hilly. Everybody calls me Perry. That's what they do. Just add
Your
everything.
dad is Perry Perry.
Yeah.
No, Chad. Peyton Manning's not going to get the job. He doesn't want the job. He's going to help hire whoever it is. That would be amazing if he did have the job.
You see the recent tweet we got in?
Got the intro rolling now.
You're up.
I'm with you, Donnie. He hits us up on the Facebook live stream. I know it would be a great payday, but that job, the fans, the pressure, woo, is it worth it? Talking about the Tennessee head coaching job. And Chad Morris hits us in. Chad says, not Chad Morris, the football coach, but it says Peyton Manning, question mark, as it pertains to the head coach. He has an influence here. He's part, you mentioned the Haslam brothers, I think, earlier on in the show, guys, being big boosters there. The big money people. Dan Patrick was explaining how his source tells him it will go down in the hiring process. Obviously, the new AD and Danny White will have some sort of say, we assume. And Peyton Manning kind of integral in this search as well. How much will be interesting to see when the hire is ultimately made. And I don't know if I agree with Travis. He says Tennessee is still a logo school, and with a good coach, will probably rebound. That being said, I hope they get stuck with Mike Shula. If it was one Mike Shula, right? If it was just Derek Dooley, then I would be with Travis. But having seen the last several now, throw in the Lane Kiffin year, and I know he actually had a pretty decent year and seemed to get them back on the right track, but then that's part of being a logo school, right? If you are one of the best in college football, your coach doesn't leave for another job in college football. And that happened with Lane Kiffin, and then Butch Jones is his own cluster in his own way, and then Jeremy Pruitt throw in the NCAA issues, and I feel like it's a recipe, Bill, for how you drag a perennial powerhouse out of that top class in a sport and put them kind of in the middle class with a whole bunch of other programs fighting to get to that top tier.
What you throw Nebraska, Tennessee, Miami. Are those the big three that have fallen off? Is that fair? We're not ready to throw Florida State, right? I'm not ready to throw Florida State in there. I am. Given that they just won a championship this, last decade and played.
Southern Cal hasn't fallen off.
Who?
Southern Cal.
Southern Cal. Good
well,
point.
I guess I'm just.
What is falling off? Michigan.
No. Listen, Michigan still.
They're on that next tier.
I mean,
Southern Cal and Michigan are.
When I say falling off, like Miami, I guess this year, maybe last. I guess they got to number 2? Was it 2 years ago? 3 years ago? They were undefeated going in. I think lost to Pittsburgh. So maybe that's a little unfair. I don't know. I guess we don't.
Will never recover.
Well, that's where I'm going with this. If you start looking at those programs, like Michigan's had some success under Harbaugh. Harbaugh's biggest failure, I know this year stunk. Harbaugh's biggest failure, though, has not been able to beat Michigan State or Ohio State. That doesn't mean they haven't had success. They haven't had the success against the rivals that they've wanted. Southern Cal's been okay. I don't think that they've fallen quite to the level of what we saw Miami go through or what we've seen. I mean, Tennessee has been really bad. We got a texter who said it doesn't matter who the bad coach is, they always beat South Carolina. Well, no, not technically. South Carolina is 7-5 against Tennessee over the last 12 years. South Carolina's more than held their own in this rivalry. I think Fulmer's last year was 09. Is that right? 08. 08 was Fulmer's last year, and if you throw that in, Fulmer's last year, South Carolina against Kiffin, Dooley, Jones, and Pruitt, 7-5. So
that's with 2 straight losses as well. So they were 7-3 going into the game 2 years ago.
So, but Tennessee is really struggling. You become further and further removed from that success. I don't know how much they can get back to where they were. I don't know how great that job is. Again, tradition is there, but when you ask that, getting them back, I don't know. That's a tough question. Certainly, I will say it's easier for them with the tradition because you can point to, hey, we've won here. We can point to national championships. It's easier for them to get back to the top than, say, a South Carolina who doesn't have any, right?
Well, I think it's also more difficult in a way, too, because fans expect more, and I think they do it quicker. And that's what Donnie's point was when he said those fans, that pressure, the whole thing. I think it can work for you and it can work against you. Just depends how it gets used. Appreciate all the participation today, both on the live streams, on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, like always.
30.
Venezuelan baseball brawls. Otherworldly, Sammy says. He's our final text today. I was mentioning cheap shots because Jamal Murray got kicked out of a game for the Nuggets last night with a low blow cheap shot. Brought up. I'm surprised it took us that long to go there. Sammy says those baseball brawls, they always seem to go after the catcher first, then the pitcher, and anyone else that's breathing. Kind of like our show today. Thanks for listening to the early.
Clear.
All right. Live stream number 2 in the books. It's good stuff getting the old YouTube comments up and rolling. Yeah, if you listened on the YouTube or if you ever go on the YouTube, please subscribe to that channel. We're planning on doing this every day, so it'll come right to you. And then maybe even, for instance, like after a basketball game at halftime, if a basketball game's going nuts, if we just have the inkling to hop on here, we can do it outside of show times as well and get it going.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, we got to get the subscriber numbers up there to make it work.
What time do they play Wednesday night? Is it an
7
early
o'clock,
game?
I believe.
Huh?
7, Georgia, home.
A live watch party?
I don't know about watching the whole game, but
Yeah.
we
We gotta get the numbers up.
Oh.
If we get once we get the YouTube numbers up, it'll become worthwhile.
But maybe we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Just giving you a heads up of where our heads are at, and we'll try to again plug some of that show audio in if we can. Still looking at that stuff, so making adjustments every day. All right, you guys got anything else?
I'm a little tied up today, but I might call you later about a few things.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys, or watching, I should say, and especially for Stuart. Thanks for hooking Bill's lights up.
Yeah, we're texting right now. We're working on a plan.
All right, Patrick, stay on with me on the headphones. I gotta cut
Hey,
some.
yeah, real quick, is Jen due back tomorrow?
No.
It depends on the weather.
All right.
Jim,
Patrick,
just
I may have some stuff we got to cut
on
tomorrow,
YouTube.
but that's no problem.
Sorry, Bill, go ahead.
I was gonna say I may have some stuff I need to cut with Patrick tomorrow, but I'll wait. It's not pressing today.
All right. Jim, you just search for 107.5 The Game on YouTube. Our page should pop up. All right, guys.
Later.